My internet collapsed about a half an hour ago, and it took me about 10, 20 minutes to get it back online.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're here, man. I think this is it. I think we're about to go live. Yes, there we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hash Church 5.0, episode 10. And apologies, I mucked up again this week. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's you talking through the computer now. There we go. Okay, that threw me off. Yeah, I had a bit of a technical difficulty, a little glitch today. I thought I had sent out the invite emails early last week, and in fact, I did not. So this was last minute. I just sent out the invites to the panel now. Many of them might think that there's no episode today, so we'll see who shows up. But I got Skunkman Sam in the house. How you doing, Sam?
Okay, but everybody else seems to be, oh, ye of little faith.
Yes, they don't quite have the commitment and faith that ye have, Sam, but hopefully we'll see them. I did talk to Collin recently, and he said he would be making it in, so we'll get a few more peeps, and then in the meantime, maybe it's time for us to light up a little bong rip, something along those lines. At least get it starting to heat up. Been a fairly uneventful week. Today's Canadian Thanksgiving for us Canadians. Well, I guess tomorrow's the holiday, but kind of all this weekend is Thanksgiving, where I was at a Thanksgiving meal yesterday with some friends and having another one tonight with family. And who
My
knows,
wife
maybe we'll get.
does not like celebrating Thanksgiving. She goes, "Oh, that's the day that the Indians got screwed over."
Well, she's not wrong. Other than now, we're not allowed to call them Indians. We have to call them, I don't know, whatever, indigenous or some other thing.
Redskins.
I don't think we're allowed to do that. I don't think we're allowed to do anything anymore. I was at a dinner table yesterday where I found out you're not allowed to say, I have a friend who works at a school, and of course, the schools are the most like close to the woke mind virus. And so she said she's not allowed to say nitty gritty. She was in a meeting and she said, let's get down to the nitty gritty. And they were like, oh yeah, you're not allowed to say that. It has something to do with the slave days. And then she said something else, something about master. And they were like, oh yeah, we don't say master anymore either. And she was just like, what the
Well, that's screwed because you know how many master gardeners and master cultivators there are
Master
in
growers.
Canada.
I know. I know. Not to mention the masturbators. Forget about it.
I don't think you're allowed to say that either.
Not allowed to say anything anymore. So Sam, I think we should do a whole show on you and I just saying shit we're not supposed to say. We'll call it Sam and Bubble Man Get Canceled, Episode 1, Part 1. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna have to send out the link to maybe Etienne. I don't think he's got it yet. Mellow. Yeah. So what's new and different over in Amsterdam?
I today this I was looking for one of my little tiny sacred seeds t-shirts that I made for infants, and I was going to put it on Sam I Am, but I couldn't find it done.
Oh, yeah, that would have been primo. That would have been absolutely primo. Well, I'm mellow. Let's see what the room's saying. We got a few people, just 38 people have joined us so far, so it's pretty mellow. We are custom live streaming, so I know it's the right link. Welcome, one and all, to the stoniest church around. Yes, that's us. We are the Stoned Church, aka Hash Church, loving the church vibes. And we'll see how it goes today. It's kind of a mellow Sunday, kind of beautiful weather over here. Looks like we got a blue sky and some pretty nice weather in store for us today, which is never a bad thing. I think Colin's over in New York right now, harvesting some greenhouse flower. He was telling me earlier that that was the case, so I'm sure he'll come in and Yeah, I am going to hit it hard, John. Actually, I made a mistake and I put it in front of the dab right instead of putting it into the universal heater from D-Nail. So that'll help it get heated up a lot faster. Go from that. Oh, I see 112 watching now as well. Johnny Berfelo. We've got to get Johnny Berfelo in here for a visit. Oh, I just sent him the link. Look at that. I went and did a hash church with John Berfelo the other day, which was awesome. We hadn't seen each other for a while, so that was fun. And oh my goodness, after 4 weeks of having a broken collarbone and being so careful, Sam, so careful, I end up, John's got this giant tree in his front yard, and he's John, so he's trying to pull me over to this corner of his yard so I can see just how big this tree is. And I'm like, okay, I walk over, I get close. He's like, no, 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 come over. I walk a little closer. He's like, no, 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 come over here, come here. So I step off the sidewalk to go walk over the grass to where he is, and I step on this log, this small round piece of wood that's like bordering his sidewalk. And dude, I eat shit so hard, like kaboom, right down on my broken clavicle. Like I couldn't believe it. And of course, John, being as positive as John is, he's like, it's okay. You're fine. You're fine. I'm like, no, dude, I just fell on my arm. He's like, no, you didn't. No, no, you didn't. No, you fell on your bum. I saw you. You did. You barely hit your arm. I'm like, dude, my arm hurts. I definitely fell on my arm. He's like, no, no. He would not let me acknowledge that I fell on my arm. And I swear to God, thanks to him, it felt better sooner. So that was kind of a funny experience. But yeah, it was a bummer, John Maddox. When you break your collarbone, your clavicle, it hurts. It's very sore. And then there's also a lot of soreness that goes into your rotator cuff and all the little delicate tendons and muscles and things that are in and around the bones. They stay sore for a while because obviously they're a lot more vulnerable and they're a lot more delicate. So yeah, it hurt for a couple more days and then it kind of went away, just like John said that it would kind of go away. So give thanks, Johnny Burfellow, and come on in. I sent you the link, dude. Love to see you on this morning. We got 135 folks watching right now. Banger is a heatin'. Gonna smash out a little of this guava. Let's see if I can get it to focus on the guava.
Guava, isn't that the tropical fruit that whenever you want fruit juice, they add guava juice to it?
I didn't know that about guava. I thought it was apple juice was the universal sort
Well,
of add.
you're apple and then orange and then probably guava.
Okay. Well, it's definitely got a great kind of tropical fruity. I did link weed, Johnny. Go to your messenger and you'll see that I linked weed. You gotta go to your messenger and you will see that we are here.
Hello, hello,
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear
hello.
me now?
I can right now.
Colin's got that
Hey,
soft
Sam.
radio voice going on this
I'm
morning.
here. I have a, I've got the microphone in front.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Welcome. We're doing good, man. We're chill. We're super, just sort of Sam and I in the room for a little bit, just chatting away and getting ready to have a little dab here of the guava.
Nice, man.
Yeah, it's time, man. It's time. It's Sunday morning. It's like I said, I mucked up. I didn't send out the links to anyone. So we'll see if there's going to be a panel this morning and kind of keeping it loose with Hash Church. If we go, we go. And, it's okay if we only do a couple hours too. But I love getting into these conversations that I find I can't plan. They just sort of like happen with, it's like fish jamming for 42 minutes. I remember someone asking Paige years ago. He's like, well, why would you jam a song for 42 minutes? And he's like, well, to hear the 43rd minute, of course. I
The
was
truth.
like, okay,
I, I,
dude.
it's funny you say that. Was on Thursday last week. We were with another team, in New York State, and they were asking us about Hash Church, and they're like, is there like a forum? I was like, no, it's just it's individuals that get together and have like it's a bunch of jazz musicians that are exchanging thoughts and ideas in exchange. And the call and response of that that conversation evolves, right? And as that evolves, you get these really amazing things that come out of it that you can't plan for. And I think that's the beauty of it, as you said, like that's exactly, you go to a fish show as a fan chasing those moments, right? So I think, in turn,
Totally.
fan of the show and you've been following this, it's sort of the similar thing where you get into these exchanges and then things start to evolve and really come out as gold. So it's cool. Yeah, I totally relate to it. I was
The
literally,
songs are just the subjects, right?
yeah.
But how deep you go into it and how, it's definitely a very cool thing. And I agree with you as well. And I want to say good evening to all of those sitting down for your dinner in Denmark right now. I'm talking to you, Keep It Simple 420. He just wrote in the chat room that it was funny to watch it live and hear me say good morning as he's eating his dinner in Denmark. So shout out to Denmark. It is evening in Denmark, and they're eating dinners over there. And Johnny B's puffing bowls, so there's no doubt about that. Johnny B, how the hell are you?
Fantastic.
Good to see your
I don't
face.
believe it.
Howdy, Johnny.
That was tasty. That was the money balls. How you doing, Sam?
Oh, the money balls.
How you doing, Colin? How is everybody doing? Great to see everybody on this lovely Sunday morning.
I'm doing great. I'm just really excited. We had a monumental week in New York. We picked up our first batch of living soil organic grown material to put back in the market. And
Hell yeah.
our partners have just crushed it. And I'm feeling really confident about where things are headed for not only us, but the New York market. I mean, living soil organic, passing all the tests is very difficult. And to put it on the market that way, with that much love and respect for the plant and to the process, it's hard to find that. So I'm really honored to be able to do that for the community and continue the journey and, just build this whole thing for the people and then ultimately put out amazing products with Marcus and our friends. So cheers to all that, 10-10. We just picked it up, super monumental. And then we saw the Northern Lights. We walked out of the lab and we looked up. I was like, hey, Zach, get over here, bud. It's like, look up. Northern Light, you know, it just, we drove 14 hours to do this whole thing. So it was really good for us. So as a small, mighty lab, we're here for it. So New York, get ready, man. We're gonna put some Sherbanger 22 in the market for y'all.
They were
3.5.
seeing they were seeing the Northern Lights in Florida.
Wow.
Wow.
But here's the question. Is that the Northern Lights or is that some harp shit? Because when I was a kid, the Northern Lights didn't look like this. And I'm not trying to go down a conspiracy hole. I'm always just like curious and questioning everything, which used to be kind of cool until all of a sudden they were like, what are you doing? You can't do your own research for the vaccine. Like, you're not allowed to do that. I'm like, what? We used to call it reading. Now it's called research. And if you do it on your own, you're a sham. But I don't know. It's something to look into. Like, I
Well,
thought they were
everybody
beautiful.
knows that what made the Northern Lights so cool is chemtrails.
Oh, he's really getting us down a rabbit hole. Dude, to even suggest that those exist can enrage certain people. So I just stay on the fence. I puff my bowls and just talk about the few things that I do know, which is not a lot of things. We have we have closed captions right now showing up on the YouTube chat, and I've never seen that before. I have no idea why, and it's coming from Zoom for sure.
What's this?
Yeah, so it is what it is. I guess that's happening like that today. Oh, captions. There we go. Host captions control, closed captions, show captions. I don't see it on my page. That's the weirdest thing. I just see it on YouTube.
It's okay, because there's all kinds of new things happening with the Zoom and all these little, little things, these reactions, and we can like have all kinds of party time, and you can have all kinds of fun now.
I guess so.
You're right. It's all these reactions that we got. Figured I'd just bring
Well,
some plant. I'm trying to keep this one not going into flowers, so I've been bringing it in at night and then putting it out during the day.
What varietal is it?
It's Medi Kush crossed with Romulan.
Oh, nice. That's
It's
awesome.
we did the Medi Kush cross with the Mac 1. Wow. It's
Did
gonna
you did you see did you read that, John?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was funny. I'm complaining about these closed captions, and Bingo Lombardi's like, it's Johnny B's fault.
That's good.
Of course it
You know,
is.
the whole thing is they're right in the center of the screen here right now, so they're up here for me too. And, a lot of people maybe have like hearing impairments, so the closed caption is good for them. And right now, it's like nice to have that because then I can like if I miss something, I can like look up and I can write it down. I love closed captions now. It's good for taking.
Yeah. It's just, it would be nice to know what I did differently to make them appear versus what I've been doing for, say, the last 10 years when they've never appeared. It's wild.
Can you
When
turn it
when
Well,
off?
I think
I don't
if you
know.
were really advanced, the
Okay.
subtitles would be in Aramaic.
Oh, I can do that. That I can do, dude. That I can do. Don't ask me why, but set the captions for this meeting. There it is. Arabic, you want?
No, I said
Arabic.
Aramaic.
Oh,
That's what
Aramaic. Oh,
that's
geez.
what Jesus was speaking.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have Aramaic. Fuck. All right, Sam, shut me down.
If you send Sam some Bitcoin, I'll send you the font.
Allow closed captions there. I think I just shut them off. Let's see if that shut them off.
Mine are gone now. What happened?
Are they though?
I don't know.
Let me see.
I don't believe it. Oh, maybe I did shut it off. I think I did.
So it was a fun Wednesday when you stopped by. And now that little happened, that happened up front, just because I love you, and I was like, I had to take a look what was going on out there. I'm like, you know what? That was probably my fault, right? And
No, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault that you were leading me away from
I
what I
moved,
was trying to
I
do
moved, I moved the
constantly.
bench. See, I moved the bench. So
I don't
now
think it was the bench. It was that log on the left side of your
and now
grass,
now
and
I
that
put
thing.
these here, so you
Oh,
won't,
nice.
right?
I would have
So
fallen right on it. That's where I fell, right on that where that pot is,
right.
collapsed. Show us the mulberry tree. It's so big. There it is. The
Did
tree
you
that
ever
almost took
get
my life.
mulberries on it?
After the big ice storm, that's what happened to the tree. It split in the middle, right? So we had a big ice storm. You see it split in the middle and it all went down. And then this year we got no mulberries and it did some crazy stuff. So it's kind of like pretty cool. And it took over my whole yard. And it just I don't have any yard maintenance, so it's pretty good.
But you've gotten mulberries from that tree before.
Okay, Google off. Of course. I have a freezer
Yeah,
full. We have white
nice.
mulberries and they come at 3 different stages and they're so good for you, right? They're good antioxidant and everything. So, I mean, I have a freezer outside with mulberries. I have dried mulberries.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. Well, it's harvest season, man. Croptober. It's going on all around. I'm always like excited. Like it's kind of like once you've grown cannabis outdoors in particular, I think you just become forever connected to the web of people doing it because although don't have any plants outside right now, I'm nervous for those who do, and I want them to get their plants harvested. Like my
Has
uncle
to be
tells me
today.
about, yeah, you
Today
just,
is October.
I'm telling you, dude, it's like sooner than later. Here in Canada, especially, if it's October 13 and still have your plants in the ground, which I do have friends that have their plants in the ground,
It looked like
it's
that
uh,
because
it's
it
not going
rained
to
too
fare
much.
well.
And I went away.
Um,
I came back and that one didn't really make it. This one did.
That time of year.
it,
This one's
it,
coming today. This one did not make it.
Wow.
Man,
Yeah.
it, in
No,
my window, I've got some bunks growing, which is Taihei's skunk, and it hasn't even started to flower yet.
oh my God,
it
dude.
smells really good. Just never made it. So there you go. That's the one.
We had in the East Coast in the United States, we had a really rough year last year. And to be honest, this week, these next 4 days, anyone that has outdoor that's listening, please start harvesting today. Just
Yeah,
get it,
yeah.
get it down. It's over. Like this is not gonna get better. To your
It is
point,
a
Mark,
blast.
it's just brutal because every year this happens and everyone forgets. You know, we have hurricane season. We've had two hurricanes come through the East Coast. That the barometric pressure and also the humidity and the it being somewhat warm and cold, hot cold, around 68 degrees to 70. That's just a really finite recipe for botrytis and all the things you don't want. So yeah, it's really tough.
Bud
And
rot.
yeah, and then furthermore, I would say that New York State, if you're a regulated grower, you have 10,000 CFUs. That's a really high bar to match to get your product to market without remediation. So all those outdoor growers that love sun grown in New York, I respect every single one of you. But it's, all that hard work to go into remediation feels backwards. So hopefully we can change that. CFUs need to be changed. So it's not good.
It's definitely not. It's the conversation we had in episode 3, I guess, with Kevin and Alec from SC Labs there and medicinal genomics. It's one you could go on and on and into. A lot of people don't understand that they're just failing they're not deciphering or deciding the differences between, bad and good. It's just whatever, if it's in the microbial world and we find a certain level of it, you fail, which is pretty crazy. Yes, Dread. Dread is right. CFU is very terrible in Illinois at 1,000, which is insane that it's 1,000.
Delaware is 50 or
Jesus
150.
Christ.
Yeah. So it's just it's getting to the point where it's so uneducated that when you see these numbers, you're just you have to beg the question, where did this ideology and this thought process come from to land on this number?
Well,
Like
I
what
get it. They come from the world of like Joe Strady. Like they come from like the way they will do food and do a variety of other things. They're so disconnected from the actual relationship that is cannabis. They don't understand the subtle nuances of it. And so
Yeah,
they're
but if you
willing.
think about it, with food in America, you can have X amount of rodent hairs per
Yes,
whatever. You
it's
can
true.
have, I mean, as long as you sterilize it afterwards, it's okay.
And let's not forget, a ton of the food in America is actually poison. Like it's not even food. It will kill you. It will,
That's a
the
lot of the food that we eat today. A lot of it's processed and stuff like that. It's complete.
But that's why Americans are so strong. You've heard that if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
oof, I definitely have heard, but I've also heard of if you're 350 pounds, you're shortening your life span.
I may mention to that. How many people do you see in their 80s overweight?
You don't see that.
You don't see it. You
No.
just don't see it, right? So, I mean,
The
if you,
heart doesn't make it that far.
huh?
The heart doesn't make it that far. It can't make it to 80 if you put that kind of pressure on it.
You got to keep your hands on your heart and hands on your plant.
How old was
So
Humpty Dumpty?
Humpty Dumpty was only 13 years old, but back then that was actually fairly old for a Humpty. They didn't have a long lifespan. And what are you looking for there, Colin?
my
Ah, yes.
I was looking for my dab. I
You were
needed
looking for your dab.
I was trying to find my jar. I was like, where did it go?
I
It's right
just had
there.
my 8 a.m., 9 a.m. dab. Oh, still good amounts of discomfort from the old arm, but geez, it takes a little while longer to heal as we get older, I guess.
That's the thing about getting old.
That's one of the things I suspect.
Our time.
You don't even know what old is. I'm
It's true.
75. How old are you, John?
Who, me? I'm
John.
I'm 52. I'm young.
Hmm.
I'm 52.
You don't know
I
what
turn
old
53
is.
next month, so I'm still 52.
That's awesome.
How old are you, Mark?
I'm 51. I turned 52 in like 5 months, maybe 6 months. Yeah,
On
6 months.
now
So.
we gotta know. We've all
I found life was easy till you got to 74 and a half.
70
Then,
and a half.
then the shit hits the fan.
And it just got difficult.
Well, you know what? If I look at every day of a grateful day in grace, and we get these days, and look what we have around us, because it was all created of what was that a thought? We keep creating more every day.
I,
Everybody
I
here.
can honestly say I never thought I would live to be 30 years old. When I was 20 years old, I was living pretty fast and crazy, and I was hoping on leaving a good looking corpse.
Well, Sam, if you take a
That
look,
ship has sailed, Sam.
I know, in more ways than one.
how much did you say when you were 20, Sam? And what did you write down when you were 20 that you look at today that actually all came true? What came true?
Uh,
Think of like look what you've manifested and how far you've created
uh,
around us. I'm
to
curious.
be honest, I think my theme song was pretty simple, low and bass. In other words, more like I'm just a crazy hippie. I don't know what I'm doing. If I'm not smoking dope, you can bet that I'm screwing.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think we all has anyone ever thought about their theme song? Like, what's that theme song that you, when you walk around, like plays behind you?
Bum bum bana. Bum bum bana bana bum 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 bana. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Probably
like
not that one.
Trump. It's the Village People.
Dude, I saw a good one, and I don't know if this was, you never know what you see anymore, but it was like they had like broken in Illinois to the room that played the music and changed his theme song, and they put on like Creep by Radiohead as he was standing on the stage to come out. It was a good job if it was like a fake, but if it was real, that's like a pretty incredible prank to do in front of like that many people. I thought it's good that the world still has humor. Got to laugh at this stuff. Otherwise, you might be taking it too seriously. Hey, welcome, Etienne.
Oh, so it's happening today.
Yeah, I had planned the whole week. This is the thing. I've known it was happening today all week. I had a big plan. It was all going to be great. I had invited, what's her name there? Dr. Amanda Ryman.
hmm
Yeah, she was going to come in. I did not reply back to anyone. In fact, I guess I left it open on my computer and had a little crash. And when I came back, that email didn't exist anymore.
Oh no. Yeah,
So
Dr.
yeah,
Ryman's great. She used to work for me at BPG.
right. Yeah, I saw that on her.
Yeah, she did her study on alcohol regarding that. Hey, Johnny B, long time no see. Much love. I just put in the chat. I don't know if y'all saw this, but apparently Charlotte's Web is patenting a transgenic cannabis cultivar. Y'all,
Really?
y'all see that? Richard Rose posted that this morning. I was like, oh,
I did see that actually. I don't think I understood it.
That means the plant is intersex.
Right. I just mean the whole, so like what? They've created an intersex plant that they've found a pathway to patent it or trademark it or whatever you do to plants.
seems
Well,
to be the
Registration.
you
case.
know that the Stanley brothers, with their enabler, Dr. Gupta, they they invented THC. I mean, it wasn't here before them.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
God.
What was that again? What was that term you just said? I've never heard of it.
Enabler?
No, I was saying this the THC thing you were talking
Oh
about. I don't know.
no, it's
They
CBD.
invented that.
They
That was a
invented
joke.
CBD.
Yeah, they also
That was one
invented
of
Botanicals, which is a name that I came up with 5 years ago and have the copyright on. I was looking at it the other day. I was like, huh, I could probably go back to this guy and talk to him.
yeah.
They started Ajna Botanicals as as a as their next venture for mushrooms and other alternative plants. I thought it was very fascinating because I've spoken to both Joel and his brother at conferences before, and yeah, it's more the same, Sam, to your point.
Yeah, well,
Different.
I don't know what to say. I had high CBD varieties, more than a decade before them, but whatever.
Yeah.
One thing they're better at than me for sure is keeping their eyes on the dollar sign.
Yeah, and PR too, right? But I think ultimately, Sam, we should talk about this. Like we should document as much as we can of your work because it's necessary at this stage, I think. It's all too often I hear in other circles, not just what we're talking about here, people forget where things evolved from. And
Well, here,
you
let
know,
me.
it's very important that we document history. I think early days of design, similar thing. They weren't in the internet. Remember Wayback Machine, how they started to document websites that were lost? I think we're in an interesting time where we need to start being proactive about that.
Well, the Wayback Machine was hacked this week, right? And basically sabotaged as well.
And
So
do you
that's
remember the first Wayback Machine? It was drizzle, drazzle, drizzle, drome. Time for this one to come home.
Say what now?
that was a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a cartoon, correct.
Yeah, come on now. Aren't you old enough to realize there's funnies?
I
Well,
never heard that.
that's why we also Collin, that's my group, Veterans Action Council. We interviewed Sam this week because we're trying to get the history, and I would like to thank him for doing that, as well as he made us where he typed out all his answers because he wanted to remember and recall properly, and we greatly appreciate you going that way. um and yeah, I mean, we have to document what's going on. It's one reason why we have documentarians who are interviewing me and others who are trying to get the oral history, because a lot of our history isn't logged, right? And that's what we need to document.
Isn't there a group in Northern California called California History something?
Yeah, that's Dr. Ryman. Dr. Ryman's doing that. So she was probably going to make us aware of that, because they're just trying to make sure the California history, because that's something I have worked with her on and talked to her about in the past, because we've found ourselves creating history and realizing, oh, there's nobody really documenting the history that we're attempting to accomplish or achieve on a consistent basis, right? So this is where you who are watching, we need proper documentation of the history. We saw what happened here with Bubble Man's World, right? You even had your site hacked, you had many of your YouTube sabotaged and destroyed. Unfortunately, somebody kept them and put them back up. But this is unfortunately the type of reality that we're in now, that we need to substantially back up our history so that the future is aware of it.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
but if Bubble Man would have just paid me the $1 million, I would have given them all back to him.
Bastard.
cheap fucker.
It really is too bad, Sam, that he didn't do that. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was I remember the day that Overgrow got taken down. It made my heart sink. I never forget the feeling.
That was a bad one.
That was a bad feeling, and then I got an email from Bog, Bushy Old Grower, saying he was shutting everything down and he was moving states because he was just like, he was caught really in the middle of it. So it was a really big information dump from all of us at a young age, at a very earnest time in our lives, I think. And we were all sharing so much information, cuts, seeds, you name it. And then Sam and his whole world was on there, dropping crazy knowledge and great posts, and all the other constituents like OT1 and me, myself, and I with his G13 out crosses and back crosses. I don't know if any of you guys remember any of that, but
Oh
just
yeah.
super
What-
important stuff.
What
Like
I
G13.
did was I moved over to IG, International, IC,
Yeah,
International Calligraphy.
yeah. I go back to IC Mag sometimes and I look at my profile. I'm like, man, we came over here in the early 2000s, after Overgrow, and then Laughing Moon was before that, which was, I think, Emery's stuff, right? But it was just a hotbed of information, and the only reminiscence that I see is the NCGA, or not BCGA growers forums, which was like, for me as a young guy, popping seeds, trying to figure this all out, like a lot of us when you first start. There's just a lot of elders that were willing to share and explain things. And Vic High was another one. But all that stuff, the BCGA is still there in an archive, right? Overgrow is not, and that's where a lot of the contemporary movement happened. A lot of the early 2000s, a lot of the sour work, a lot of the stuff with, I won't name his name. He starts with an R, but a lot of the BX stuff that he was doing, evolved out of those forums, and then ChemDog and JJ, all these guys. I mean, it's the fabric of contemporary varietals. I think we all found a meeting spot there.
What I remember was Hybe selling STS at an outrageous price, and I told everybody how to do it for free, and he got very, very annoyed at me.
Yeah, I think he's learned some lessons over the years. Ultimately, I think he means well, but
I think a lot of people in cannabis mean well, but it doesn't mean that they always do well.
Yeah, well said, actually. Wow, that's some profound words right there.
On these Ursal states.
Yeah, Overgrow was the beginning of kind of this new level of community that had never really existed before. It was so underground, and then suddenly, like, you could just go on a website, and I remember it was like 98 or 99, and Breeder Steve was like, "Oh, come see me on Overgrow. I'm in the Shark Tank." And I was like, I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't really like, what? And then, of course, I went on Overgrow just to find him, and it was just like him talking the most amount of crazy shit you could possibly imagine. And I was just like, dude, what the fuck is this site? He's like, it's the Shark Tank, man. Anything goes. I like, I was like, okay, well, this is weird. So I never went in there again. I only went in the Shark Tank one time. And then very shortly after, I would be asked by Shebang, the guy who created the site, to run a hash and processing forum, which had not existed online yet. Like ICMag.com, or before ICMag, cannabisculture.com, Cannabis World, cannabis.com. All of those sites had many different forums, but none of them had hash and processing forums. And so the first one was on Overgrow. And I remember being a little bit bummed because before it was really like guys like myself and Bushy and Gypsy Nirvana that would just post in the photo forum, and everyone posted in the photo forum, and so it was this hotbed of activity. And then once he subcategorized everything, you had to start posting your grows in this one, your outdoors in this one, your hash in this one. And so it split us all up and divided us all. For the first, we had just finally gotten a spot where we could all together kind of communicate. And so it became a little bit of like this splintered thing where we were now in these small rooms, and we each, there eventually what would happen was people would build those rooms up to become like hotbeds of activity in themselves. And then of course you could, travel through 3 or 4 or 5 of them depending on what your likes were. But Overgrow was a big deal, and when it went down, it was a big deal. It was kind of up there with when they arrested Mark and Michelle and Greg, and said they were going to send them back down to America there, the DA. That was another kind of milestone experience in not a good way for cannabis in Canada in particular.
Yeah. The RMCP, is it? They took control of the servers.
The RCMP, yeah.
But yeah. I just remember I just get emails from everybody being like, dude, delete everything. Yeah, it was bad, man.
The black SUVs pulled up. Mark came out the back with Jody. They arrested him and then walked him out the front door and fucking put him in the fucking SUV.
Those dudes with the balaclavas.
It was like,
yeah, I mean, I just remember meeting some of the most amazing individuals that sent me such awesome cultivars and offspring. I mean, I had such a blast trading, trading, and, you know, just, 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 and collecting varietals all through that time and banking what I still have today. It was
It was incredible.
it really
I
was.
can't even tell you. That was the beginning of fresh headies and bubble bags. That was like without overgrow.
That's where
That's
we met,
I was
dude.
like,
You
yeah,
and I
that's what I'm
met.
saying.
I had a handle. We didn't even know each other's name. It was like it was amazing. And it was just, and then the chat forum. What was that chat forum we used to go on? There was like this
That
chat
was
that
Steppenwolf's chat forum, True Stoners.
that was awesome. Miss Jill was in there. Everybody.
Yeah. Jack and Jill were in there, and so was like Hash Bean was in there and some
Yeah.
other
Kaka,
folks. Kaka,
Shroomy,
yeah.
Shroomy 420 was in there. I remember I
It's
used to
weird
get
to not even have known a lot of these people by their
So
names.
how did
I
it
mean, a lot
evolve?
I did, but
So here's
How
a
did it
question.
evolve after the bust? So, I mean, it carried on. As you said, Colin, he made you aware. Oh my God, erase your shit, hide your shit. But it evolved, right? It evolved into something else in other communication fields.
yeah.
yeah, but
Well,
it never evolved into anything as good as it was at the time. That was the
Okay.
hit. So
yeah.
yes,
That was the
Gypsy
sweet spot.
stepped in and he did International Canographic. And at the time, he was selling so many seeds and he just had money to burn. I remember he went and bought this beautiful brand new Jaguar that we like ripped up and down the Autobahn in Germany, going like
Oh, he had
ungodly
that beautiful
speeds.
magazine, which
Well,
was
that's it.
chock full of
He started the
gorgeous
magazine.
photos.
He wanted to do the magazine and as as the big thing, but then video every story and add a DVD at the end of the magazine so you could put that in. So it's like you could read about our adventure in Jamaica or whatever, and it was like a 10 or 12-page article. But then at the end of the book, you'll see a disc, you pop that in. Now it's a live video of our adventure in Jamaica that you just looked and read through with photos. It was a baller concept for a
I
magazine.
liked International Canographic magazine because I always liked National Geographic.
I couldn't believe he didn't get sued for the name, to be honest, but he pulled it off.
Okay, the reason why I'm so happy here right now is because I have the rosin and I got the weed and I got the joint and it just like
I just signed in to IC Mag just to see. You guys are getting me all nostalgic.
I don't think
Nice.
I know. I want to go find in my library. I have a copy of the magazine, at least the first issue, somewhere.
Oh, they deleted all of our old messages though, dude. There's no. Oh my gosh, that's too bad.
I've
See, this
got
is what I'm
a
talking about.
really
They purged the site and all of this like all my info, all my conversation with like Bog and even 8077, the Calio, the guy who created Calio. I mean, they're they're not here anymore. It's crazy.
Huh.
Calio. Is that California Orange?
Yeah, it was just a particular selection, and he
Oh,
swears
okay.
he
So he
selected
didn't create Calio. He
no, he just had a particular cut of it
okay.
from your stock, and he swears that it came from your skunk one, not
So
the Calio. He said it was like an outer laying, pheno that he found in a skunk one hunt that he did.
No, 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 no. Those two had no relationship whatsoever. I
Yeah,
know
Well,
that was
because I'm the one who spread Calio. It was a
got
friend
it.
of mine who bred it up by Santa Rosa in Sebastopol, and no,
So you
it
don't believe
Ed,
that that
Ed,
came?
Ed got
Got
a
it.
cut from that guy, and that's how we perpetuated Calio in the Bay Area for the early on medical cannabis. So
I
that
I
I know it
sold
as a
I sold huge numbers of Calio's seed in
Yeah, that
both
makes.
in California and in Holland. Tons.
grew tons of it too. I
Cali.
mean, that was
So
a lot of the clones that went out. Like I said, we used to pump out 5,000 clones a week, and I'd say a solid 1,500 to 2,000 a week were Calio.
yeah, man. There's
Yeah,
no.
it was actually quite interesting weed. Uh, I I related a lot to it because it was, on the level with skunk, it was just different.
Changed my life, to be honest, Calio. I was a very teenager at the time when I was given that clone, and I'd grown a lot of gassy stuff, some fruity stuff, but nothing that I actually was that citrus. And I remember I was at the time really studying percussion, like studying, fusion 7/8 time frames and stuff. And I was just smoking that Calio and just like working on stick movements and trying to get my patterns right. And I just had this epiphany with that varietal that it was very uplifting, very focused, it made me very focused. But it tasted like nothing I'd ever had. So thank you,
I
Sam.
I
It's incredible that you
crossed
brought that to the
skunk
world.
#1 with Calio, and selections were made of that, and that's what became Tangy.
Nice. So yeah, so again, on IC Mag, again, history is lost. Like I look at those messages as like history because we're talking about the varietals. I talked to Bog back and forth. Hey, this outcross that you sent me of these tester seeds was better than the next. Like all that stuff's gone now. Like I
Everything's
can't get it.
all that old stuff's gone. All the stuff from Cannabis, everything got kind of wiped out.
Well, not everything's gone because I've been running a bibliography, cannabis bibliography, uh, that's alphabetized and by subject, about 20 different subjects, and it's still there.
No, I'm just thinking in my brain here, like what we got to do is you got to create something around it, like create a history, like of course with AI, and I'm like huge in AI right now in a huge way. I'm just my brain turning here and how we can create like an agent or GTP around this completely from House Church, go through all the things, grab all of that info that you're looking for and create it around there, start archiving it and creating that. I've got most of it already being created through a lot of other stuff. So being able to kind of bring in that information.
I'd say in general, uh, you know, AI makes some interesting uh, documents, but it also can really have its ass up its head, and it just makes mistakes that are just any human being would see.
That's the thing about AI is it's advancements. So there are different ways of being able to. It comes down to the prompting and how you communicate with AI to get the information that you're actually truly looking for. So there's
Well, it also is picking up all this information from the internet. And I think a few of us know that the internet is not exactly 100% reliable.
What? Who,
What do you mean by
what?
that, Sam?
Well, I remember somebody was documenting for a while. Weren't they doing transcripts, Bubble Man? Full on transcript of every conversation in Hash Church for a while there.
Yeah, something like that. That's outrageous.
I've been
Yeah.
asked by companies to develop AI um, applications for formulation. And it's just the issue that's there right now is that we as in the cannabis world aren't there yet. So how do we expect technology that's developing to get there and meet us where we're at?
you guys
Um,
in order to
we
teach.
No,
can,
they want the technology to drag us into the real world.
yeah, but I do think over time you ingest more. It's kind of like the genomic research side of things. It's like as we ingest more, it'll spit back out more data that is digestible that we can actually use. But it's going to take a lot of time. But it is a tool that's not going anywhere. So I do
Well, it
think,
learns from you too, not just the internet. So if it's just a matter of playing around with it, and you can, throw the first time you play around with it, you're like, oh, this isn't accurate. I've been playing with it for a couple of years now, and when I ask it to like write an SOP for me, and I'll use very specific language so that it ties back to me and my SOPs. You can also make it write things to sound like you. It will literally write things that are like of your, like if you read it, you're like, whoa, I feel like I wrote this. So, but that's all about learning how to use it. The internet wasn't too different. When people first started like searching the internet, people weren't good at searching, and some people were like spectacular at it. They just knew the right things to write in to like hone in on what they were looking for much quicker than other people who were just like leaving it too broad, pulling in too many other subjects into the search. So that's just my perspective on it, but it's interesting.
We use it to, I mean, once when I'm saying we, my veterans group, we work at the international and national level. And we're working on legislation. All we do is take our our verbal vomit, as we say, and then put it into proper legalese. So it has its its opportunities. I like the idea of what John is bringing forward. I don't know what it will return. I'm curious as to what it will return if it could scour all of the the hash churches to start bringing up information, because there's so much information. If there were a way to actually catalog it in a way for people to realize the different chapters of data, I mean, it's a fucking encyclopedia of years of information, and that it could actually be
Why don't you
properly
try
notated.
asking AI, what is the best weed in the world and why?
Oh yeah, let's just ask. I have one called Strainpedia that actually looks at every strain and has scraped data through Python code and stuff like that, so it can identify everything. So
Well,
I'm,
I can
this is
already
the
tell
best
you
thing.
there is no best weed.
Yeah,
There
it's all
is
subjective.
weed that different people will find best, but there
Do you want
is
to
no
hear what
best weed.
ChatGPT said? I think you'll be interested, Sam.
What did it say?
It's
Skunk
still
number
going.
one?
It's still going. Well, I haven't seen that one come up, but number 3 was definitely Durban poison.
I thought it might ask you for a
Harlequin's in there. Hey,
I thought
how's
it
it
might
going,
ask you
Josh?
for a printout of your biome first so that it could properly match, the
Right? Is
cannabinoids
that
and your
uploading
just be able to
biome now?
Oh my God.
Good to see you, Dragonfly. How y'all doing?
very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for having us today. And it's a beautiful day here in our neighborhood.
Beautiful. I got it going on too, Johnny. It says conclusion. The best weed often depends on what you're looking for, whether it's a balanced high, medical benefits, flavor, or sheer potency. Strains like Runts, OG Kush, and Durban Poison stand out for their legendary status, effects, and consistency. Harlequin, with its medical benefits, especially ties back to your connection with Wade Laughter's work. So that's my Chat GPT. So it searches information based on me. So look at that, Chat GPT dropping Wade Laughter in the search.
So that's pretty
Heck
cool.
yeah.
That's
awesome.
cool.
I put
Yeah.
mine to
That's pretty
one called Strainpedia, and this one goes best cannabis strains rely strictly depends on personal preferences, desired effects, and special needs. Some people prefer strains from relaxation. Best relaxation, sleep, indica dominant strains, Granddaddy Perps, Northern Lights, classic strains. Best for creativity and energy, Sour Diesel, uplifting, Jack, Bear, famous for his clear-headed. Best balanced strains, hybrids, Blue Dream, Gelato, known for its smooth. Best pain relief strains, AC/DC, Girl Scout cookies. Best for mood and boost, Pineapple Express, Lemon Haze. Best strains depend on experience that you're looking for. So what do you feel? What experience are you looking for? Now it's going to keep asking you questions, and now it's going to keep what do you want. So
I should mention that I did ask ChatGPT, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago about myself. And it wrote a speech which I sent to several of my friends because I thought it sounded way cooler than I thought. I really am.
I created this one called Cannabis Concierge. It's for identifying. You can take a picture of any legal weed in Canada, and it'll tell you who grew it, its equities, and everything. So I'm just gonna go on and go into this one because now I'm just curious because I just put that into one and be able to create these custom GTPs so we can actually take a look at how we can actually use them to help others is really cool, and that's what it really comes down to. So I got this one called the Ultimate Cannabis Concierge. So it's a virtual bud tender. And I can ask it, I want to buy one of the best cannabis strains. Let's see what it has to say. So all of these little guidances give you the best strains. Here it comes, Blue Dream again. See, look at this. Effects, Sour Diesel, same for Girl Scout cookies. Effects, Granddaddy Perps, Green Crack, Sativas, Wedding Cake, Pineapple Express. Keeps going. White Widow, Hybrid. Love it. What strains you back? So
It's interesting how they mix the old strains with the new strains and call them legacy or just, and all that stuff. That part's interesting.
so it's
Yeah,
interesting.
like they're all available in a store all together like that, right?
But you build a Dragon Earth medicine like agent of everything that you would do, and you archive that and you create that, you put into a system, and that's what the same thing you would do with and you would create your agent of everything what you're about. And that way they're not, and the information that's out there is coming from you. And that's what a lot of that's what a lot of people are doing right now. They're creating their own custom they're themselves. So there's a lot of people faking out there, right? So, and that's the whole thing. So you get an opportunity to actually give it the context of who you are and what your beliefs are. Like Mark, it brings up his already dialogue, what he's already talking with that. That's why I brought up, already things that it's already related to him. So if you do with mine, it's going to bring up things related to everything that I'm about, right? So you're building super intelligence.
And what percent of the people out there really know themselves and are truthful about themselves?
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's a small number. It's a small number. I did ask it about you, Sam, and it's pretty interesting. It's like going through your whole. I just said, "Hey, tell me about Skunkman Sam." Boom. It's even got your controversy in there, man.
It's legendary. I mean, you said with the breakdown. I'd love to see. Actually, Sam, if you could email me that, I'd love to see it just for my own shit.
I think it's worth a lot of money.
Everything you
awesome.
do is
How
worth a lot
much
of money.
Bitcoin will you give me?
That's
Oh my Lord,
funny.
I love you.
Hey,
So
so I see.
Dragonfly,
Oh, yeah,
I just
yeah.
got a
Go ahead, Etienne.
curiosity. How are things coming out this year? Have y'all started harvesting? Is it done? Is it coming in soon? How's your crop looking this year?
What the fuck is going on? What you're
Thank
saying?
you for asking. We've had a spectacular year, although we had a very challenging year and we had an incredible, massive fire in our backyard. A lot of people saw it, and I just want to give thanks so much for all the prayers that people put out, for our farm. And it was very scary. The whole entire community was evacuated. We're completely surrounded by trees and forest. And the fire came all the way down to our properties. And there was, smoke and everything in the air for 2 or 3 weeks. And but we have greenhouses and we light dep, and we light dep really because this area is pretty difficult to grow, and it's a difficult bioregion. It's up in the mountains of not northern, but southern British Columbia in a northern climate. So growing outdoors, you don't get the same expressions off a lot of the plants that people want to smoke. So we choose to light dep, and we have we have a good amount of we have some greenhouses. And so it also covers the greenhouses from the air, and it blocks a lot of bad rains or whatever from the plants. And so it really, I'm not going to say it totally covered it because the sides are always open, but like our plants did amazing. They did amazing. There's zero smoke flavor in anything. And in the last 2 years, we started light depping starting at 6 o'clock at night, and then open instead of 8 to 8, because we don't have like a fully automated greenhouse. There's no electricity. We go for passive geothermal and air exchange and everything. And that's why we keep our doors open. So in the past, we've closed at 8 and opened it at 8. But then you have 2 windows of the plant trying to wake up or go to sleep. And any light leaks or anything in there just really affects it. And in the morning, the plants really want to wake up. After a long day of sun, they're ready to go to sleep. And it's a technique used in Northern California and Southern Oregon quite a bit to close your greenhouses at 6, the light dep at 6 o'clock, and then open it up when the light comes up. I was concerned for our northern climate that it's up, the light's broad daylight at 4 a.m. And we're starting light dep in mid-June, and to the end of June to try, and we need to be done by September in our area in order to get proper flavor and proper terpene expression. Otherwise, the cold nights come in and they really stop the progression of the flower. There are strains that progress in the fall. That's funny. You couldn't see it for a sec. Is that an outdoor?
This is a greenhouse.
Nice. Yeah. And honestly, the greenhouse light dep is our favorite flower to smoke. It's just a beautiful expression of the plant. And so, yeah, we started light depping in the middle of June. The light comes up at 4. We close the greenhouse at 6 a.m. and then we just check the lumen meter on the phone until there's 0 lumens and we open it up. By midsummer and the end of June or July, it's about 10 o'clock at night. By the time July rolls through and August rolls through, by the time you're done with your light dep cycle, it's probably 8 o'clock, maybe 7. And then they start getting into so also people start going, oh, I'm going to stop light depping. I'm right around September 21st, which is the equinox, which you would expect 12/12. But if you're light depping 8 to 8 and then you just stop, then the whole morning cycle and the light, it changes the plants. It's not proper. But with our night depping, it just, the flowers have turned out so spectacular. We're not having any powdery mildew or, way less any botrytis molds. It's a phenomenal situation. Their plants are able to breathe at night. They can see northern lights. They can see the moon, they can get air, breath, and for us, that's the what we want out of our plants. We want that spiritual connection. We want that earth connection. We want the air to flow through, make the stalks stronger, push the roots into the ground. Towards the end of our cycle, we don't water in our greenhouse, and 2 of our greenhouses, it was 2 months. Towards even the hottest ended part of the summer, but it's the way that we build our soil through all natural materials, local, nothing bought from the store, and we're constantly layering in sticks and sawdust and weeds of all different kinds and hay, and it really just creates a live living environment. And then the plant really locks into the trees in the bottom of the hugel or the bed, and it wraps around rocks, and a lot of our rocks are crystals, so the roots are just wrapping in, and it's like dry farming towards the end, and it's better for molds. So we had a spectacular year. We feel very blessed because we persevered. We didn't evacuate. We were one of the few people in our community to stay in our house the whole entire time. We cleaned our forest. We put in extra water. I mean, man, our family rose to the occasion, and I just want to give thanks to my family. Kelly's not here right now. She's doing some work for our conference, which we're also really excited about. And Sky and the Sierra and everyone, we had an amazing team. So much help from our friends and family who came and dropped off cars and trucks. Big love to Tom Van Steesbergen yesterday for that insane Red Bull ride on the mountain bike. I don't know who follows mountain bikes in here, but our son Sky went down and dug for Tom Van Stees. We call him Steezy, Van Steesbergen. That's what we call him. And yeah, he did the world's largest front flip yesterday. It was like 70 some feet, and then followed it up with a flat drop back flip, and the whole day was insane. And he got best trick, and so we're really pretty stoked with our family right now and the community at large. It's tough times, in all honesty. It's tough times, but it's this engagement that really just saves the day. It saves the day. I've had some beautiful conversations with Wade on the side, everyone else. And so, every day is a blessing, and it's a big teaching that we're not owed anything in life. There's no guarantees. We don't get something because we're somebody or we're a certain color or we look a certain way. We have to really earn what we get in life. And it's true intention and love that really brings that together. And it also brings you through, interesting times, we'll call them. So that's a quick wrap up on how our year is. We're very thankful. And, what more can I say?
Awesome, dude. Thanks for sharing. Glad to have you here. And yeah, we'll talk about that conference that you guys are doing a little later on. Maybe if Kelly makes it on, she can share some of that as well with you. And I definitely watched the insane, I wouldn't call it an adventure. It was more like a drama, watching that fire get closer and closer to your house, and watching you guys like put in the piping for the hose, and wetting the forest and cleaning up all the debris. It was definitely an unbelievable amount of work, but of support. It's nice to see. It's weird, you get the most support once you've died. You'll just hear people say the nicest shit about you. You're gone. It's like, oh man, he was such a good dude. And then when you have dramas like this, you can also see, you can kind of, we have to figure out a way in life to get this love that we have for one another to express itself, not just when we die and not just when we're suffering, but just maybe just on a nice day, without any other uh, effects, just to appreciate one another. It doesn't have to be a eulogy at my funeral. You can say nice things about one another on any day. So I'm glad that you guys are okay. And that's crazy about the backflip and the giant jump and like super awesome, dude. That's 70 feet is that's bonkers. That's like that's death. You will like be
It's
dead if you.
legitimately life threatening.
Oh yeah,
We have
of
to
course,
question, the worth and the value in it. But in the end, it's this
dude.
personal
It's your
push to
soul.
do. And
It's taking your line, like on the mountain. It's like taking your line in life. And I appreciate that about pro mountain bikers and snowboarders and skiers and sledders and dirt bikes and all the sort of things that, yeah, I mean, listen, I fell 10 feet, 15 feet maximum off a skateboard and completely broke my clavicle like 5 weeks ago. 70 feet. And it's like, whew, like the
yeah,
speed that you would have.
in
It's mental.
2021, he took a devastating crash. He had
Right.
that point the world's largest front flip. He landed it. He got super excited and went to do let's call it a routine backflip. And he landed wrong and went over the bars and crumbled. Literally, he just went dull on the ground, and everyone was just like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And he broke and Kelly could tell the exact things that he broke, but it was like both hips, back, spine, ribs, collarbone. It was to the point where he had to completely rewalk. And it's spectacular the work that Kelly's doing with these athletes. And a lot of the top professional athletes are really starting to come to her. And it's mind-blowing seeing the world's greatest athletes be guided by allopathic healing to where it doesn't actually heal the injury or the accident, and that's Kelly's term, and she really believes in healing the incident and the accident, and the injury is what I want to say, the injury and the accident, because one thing to heal your body, but then to heal the mental component is a really the most important one. And just directing these writers towards a spiritual connection, right, these guiders towards a better diet. I mean, they're going to the world's best doctors and they're traveling to Europe and all over the world, and there's zero mention about food. It's just kind of like, just do your life, don't worry about it, take this and that. And it's easy to get caught up in addictions. These guys are not, and ladies are not getting into that, but I know people get involved with addictions in that. And the cannabis and other herbal medicines truly build you back up and to a point where you can heal yourself and you can revisualize what happened and you can revisualize and correct what happened. And it's amazing. And a lot of these athletes have like really elevated their situation, and we plan on highlighting that type of healing and moving forward. And part of this conference that we're doing is an earth conference, is a 5 elemental revival, which is reviving the 5 elements that are in our life. And these 5 elements cover every aspect of our life. And if we take the time and spend it learning about the earth, and then we take the time and we spend it and we learn about air, and take the time water, and take the time with fire, and then we added metal, it allows you to truly master what's around you, or at least get different ideas from different people. So we're really blessed to have such a beautiful lineup of beautiful speakers that we've been involved with for so long. Marcus, yeah, you're going to be on there. Thank you so much. We got a beautiful video from you the other night, and we're bringing Wade in. There's already 66 people, so we're doing an online conference, and we're working together with this new platform called eSys.life. And it's something that we're really excited about. And we think it's a new paradigm and a new platform to work with, to embody what we do in our life and to really show people a different way. And on a lot of social medias, it's really easy to get your account taken and things taken from you. Especially if you're saying something that's controversial based off what they're saying. So this conference is an opportunity to really share a fractal of different ideas at a community. So yeah, that's a bit about what we're doing, and it's happening this weekend online, and people can check it out. We have a lot of posts up on our Instagram page right now and collaborating with other people as well.
Awesome, brother. Well, everyone's happy to hear it, and I'm sure you'll get lots of support at your conference. I know I'll be there for my talk. It's 66 people talking for 20 minutes at a time. Is like 27 hours of like conference. It's going to be quite something.
Hey, Marcus, you mentioned your broken shoulder, your clavicle. Are you
Yeah.
upping your CBD intake? Because there's studies that show how CBD along with bone repair. I was wondering if you had done any cannabis preventatives there.
I take like 100 milligrams of CBD isolate a day, and then I just take anywhere from 20 to 50 milligrams of THC, and then I chain smoke dabs from morning, noon till night. So it seems to be working. I feel pretty strong. I mean, I had a little relapse falling at John's house. I was hurt the next day, but then 2 days later, I was like, I think it's back to fairly normal again. But thanks for asking.
Good to see Wade. How are you doing, Wade?
Maybe muted.
Sorry, no, yeah, I was muted, but yeah, I'm gonna be able to stay here for a little bit of time, but we have this big day planned, and we're getting ready to go down to Oregon, and we're gonna do a partial in-person conference in Oregon as well. So we're gonna meet up with some people down there and go tour some farms as well, which we're really excited about.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Wade.
I'm doing okay. I'm holding fast on the idea that my spirit and my soul, my heart, are doing just fine. It's my body that's wrestling with the reality of my condition. I had a really interesting experience last night. For a little while, a tooth in my mouth has been bothering me, and Monica offered to make up a clay mixture with some essential oils, hello terpenes, put it on the tooth last night, and this racing heart rate thing that I've been dealing with for months disappeared. Now, I don't know if it's because the broken tooth, it's broken below the gum line and kind of hanging in there. If the broken tooth has gotten infected, and that's why I've had all of this racing heart thing, but I've never had a temperature or a fever that would indicate that, and never had elevated white blood cell count. But I'm really intrigued at the idea that if it's not the toothache that's been triggering all of this rapid heart rate thing, that the essential oils that Monica incorporated into the clay had an effect on my body that allowed last night lots of moving around and sorting out what the heck was going on. The highest heart rate I saw was 85 beats a minute, which is, for months, that's been in the normal range for me. And that was the very highest. So I'm really fascinated at the terpenes that were in that clay and their effect on my body. And if it's not the terpenes, then it must be the tooth, in which case I'm going to see a dentist this week.
Maybe it's the
Other than
clay.
that, Wade's doing pretty good.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's wild. I'll never forget visiting John in the hospital with the terpenes and he had just had like spinal surgery, and I was putting terps under his nose, and when I put this, like, I think it was purple punch,
Purple bunch.
he just like sprang up almost. It was like, dude, whoa, what the fuck, bro? Like, relax. You're in the, like, you just had surgery on your spine.
Took my pain away.
It took my pain away.
And so when I started really looking at how terpenes were really taking a look at how THC modulated that effect and that purple punch, there's just, it's like grandma's apple pie, right? Old factory. It really just took over the sensation that is all I could think about was that smell and that flavor. So I didn't feel the pain. So it was just that was the near association or something like grandma's apple pie that was able, and that's what the best thing is about cannabis, is it takes it to a place where it brings us to a place of relaxation or a terpene or a smell or an incident and stuff like that. So it's a major anchor for me. And I love it because someone brought some weed to me when I was at the event at Grow Up, and I'm like, whoa, what is that? And I'm like, grabbed it from him, he goes, oh, that's a purple punch. He goes, here, have some. And I'm like, thank you. I know that's my flavor. All right. So there's certain flavors that are going to work for you. When you identify that, then that's your best friend. His best friend just showed up.
Zachary Pierce has a question in the chat room. He thinks it might be for Wade, but I guess it could be anyone. Hey guys, I have a question for Wade, probably. What are the pediatric issues that cause people to say that cannabis shouldn't be as commonly used for kids or with kids, like Motrin or OTC cold meds?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but in working with kids, I've always been amazed at how easily doctors and family members are down with giving heavy drugs to kids, but they shy away from cannabis. And I can only assume that's just residual fear based on prohibition. And I can't remember the woman who did a study, a longitudinal study on mothers in Jamaica who consumed cannabis. And Sam, probably somebody on this panel, I'm sure, knows the name of the person I'm thinking of. But what she
Ruben.
found, go ahead, Sam.
Ruben.
Thank you.
Mayor Ruben.
Yes. And what she found again and again, actually better outcomes for children whose mothers consumed cannabis while they were pregnant and nursing. Just got to say, it probably has something to do with the endocannabinoid system and providing phytocannabinoids to these children. And one of these days, we're going to get over the fear that's residual from prohibition and the ignorance of misinformation that's so readily provided by certain people in our culture. Public Health Institute calling you out. Anyway, yeah, there's no question in my mind that cannabis has far fewer adverse effects for children than most of the over-the-counter and prescription drugs that are given for everything from a head cold to epilepsy. And I'll shut up now.
I don't think anyone ever needs you to shut up, Wade. I mean, none of those drugs that were just mentioned cure anything. All they do is mask something until your body somehow, after being stripped, those drugs go into your biome and they strip your lining of your intestines and they strip the lining of your stomach, which completely affects your body's ability to cure itself, because your body naturally is ultimately the only thing that can cure you. So you can use things to mask yourself to give you, a little bit of rest so that you can maybe build yourself back up, or you can use herbs. And it's unfortunate with cannabis that it's not just the stigma, it's the continuation of doctors putting a line in the sand. And this happens all the time. Oh, I'm super open to cannabis. There's a lot of people that do it. All I ask is if you work with me and you take my drugs, you don't do those. And we hear it all the time. It's nonstop. So it's not just the stigma, it's this constant repetition of doctors coming in and really giving us an ultimatum that says, hey, we don't support this and we don't find any value in it. Meanwhile, on the flip side, there are people and families that use cannabis the whole entire pregnancy. In many cases, it's generational. People may not talk about it because you become a target, but in some cases, cannabis use is generational. And often, if you combine that with organic food, a healthy way of life, spring water, you have an extremely good chance to heal yourself and your children. Not everyone can do that. I know that, but it can be a goal for you to shoot for. But I would just encourage people to trust in cannabis as medicine. Finding the right dose has been talked about a million times on Hash Church, and I feel like that's extremely important. Go in slow on a new package, because every package could be slightly different, but that slightly different, I feel like is healthy. I think you getting this regimen and this exact same isolated milligram every single time really doesn't speak to a dynamic body. It doesn't speak to a dynamic system, which is all of the mitochondria, all of the cells, everything in our body. I mean, we're more than what we think we are. So we feed our soil to have healthier plants. We need to really envision feeding our biome and our neurology and our cells in order to really truly empower ourselves to become, resilient.
Beautiful, brother. Well said. Well said. No doubt about that. Everything's connected. Got Mojave and Chimera in the chat, in the YouTube chat. We got 332 people watching live this morning at 10:21 a.m. Beautiful day in British Columbia.
Is it still a heat wave down in California, Wade or Etienne?
No, it passed. We Carl came back in midweek, and it's been beautiful and cool. There was the northern lights were out, so there was that. But no, it's haven't smelled any smoke here in the Bay Area. We've been very fortunate this year, and hope it stays that way. But of course, we toured various farms over the weeks, and plants are looking good. It looks to be a solid, outdoor crop this year for sure. So very happy to see it, smell it, and look forward to smoking it in person soon. But that's our visuals. How about you, Wade? How's it up on the mountain?
It's still warm. Temperature got down to around 50 Fahrenheit last night. So, that's pretty okay by us. Beautiful fall. And the few cannabis plants I've had the opportunity to visit with this year are looking very happy. I'll say it like that. And of course, all of them are outdoor plants. It looks like it's going to be a good year for California cannabis. At least in Nevada County, that's the case.
Hey, Collin, it looked like you went to Taproot Farms and saw the family over there, and we really love those guys. And how was that trip for you?
It was awesome. So we've been chatting for months about collaborating and doing stuff together. So my cousin and I went over there to kind of analyze the farm, check on their practices, see if they were what they said they were. Totally are what they say they are. Great guys, great people. Love to get them certified. I think that we talked about that. So I want to talk to you guys about that. And they're really open to it. So there's just a few things we got to do on the farm I saw, but not too much of a heavy lift, I think. And they're just great people who care about just care. I think that's just the word. I'm not saying there's not people that don't care, but they're actionable about the things they care about, and they're actually doing them. They're composting. They are doing what they say they're doing, much like all of us. We really put our ethics into action, you know? And I think that's what I saw. And my cousin said that to me when we left. He's like, you know, the biggest takeaway here is that I see they care. And that's, you know, we don't see a whole lot of that at a lot of the farms we've toured, although they care in different ways. So I think it's really inspiring to see like-minded individuals. I'm excited to be working with them. We're going to be doing some collaborations moving forward on genetics, and it'll be fun. So you know, we need more of that in every single market. I know Bryan's doing a lot of that work too, which is amazing. And we all need to stick together and work together and continue to work together. And you know, I want to work with Bryan too and bring him into New York and, you know, do all the things that we've talked about over the past year, Bryan. And it's just been slow going in the market, as you all know, but it's finally here. And I know my team is ready and we have our lab up and running and we just took in our first batches. So it's becoming real. And I think that there's others out there that we can bring in into the fold for regenerative agriculture and regenerative practices that allow us to kind of go and change the needle, you know, towards what we believe is a better future. And I think that's the underlying theme here is we have to assess where we're at and understand that there's many ways to get to where we want to go. However, there are really thoughtful, important steps we need to make in agriculture to be able to do that sustainably and respectfully. So that's the number one thing that I think I'm excited to see. But they're just awesome guys. All of them, Josh Lee, yeah, Travis.
Travis, yeah, those guys, and the amazing food production, amazing food production. They're growing organic food and marketing it. They also have some really interesting gathering spaces they were telling us about where we could potentially do events or something. So you may have checked that out, and that's really cool too.
Yeah, we talked about that actually. I said, yeah, there's so much to catch up on, Josh. But
Fair
I
enough.
was
We'll have time. We got to get you on a phone call. Also, Bryan, best friend, we got to get you on a phone call. We're excited about having you in the conference as well. And also, yeah, I mean the crazy runts, the LA Kush crazy runts cross that those guys made this year was like whoa, and we there was like I love that bluish bud that's like blue, and then it's just got the silver crystals wrapped around it and stuff. I don't know. The Grateful Breath that we grew is very similar to that, and I just think it's a beautiful look. And
it's yeah, so exactly. So the KR3, I checked out the gelato that they have coming down, the super boof. I mean, all of it. So
the Orange Madness from the year before was really good. It was an orange creamsicle.
yeah,
And
we
the green
actually
Pinot was super nice. The purple one was like not as dynamic, I didn't think, but it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. We all were sitting around a table trying all that. And the KR3 is actually what is the reason we all connected. Like we met at
Yeah,
an event and he just handed me two sample bags and I
you're like,
literally
whoa.
like running across the event and being like, who is that guy? Where is he? We got to talk. Because, you know, it's very, I'll be honest, I encourage everyone to give me herb because I want to try their work and understand where everyone's doing. There's very few people that hand me herb like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just checks all the boxes. It's really delicious. And you could feel when you try it, the care that went into it. So it was real headies. And it's awesome to see that because that's what we all are after. You know, it's cool.
They won a bunch of awards for that I saw recently at some event there.
Yeah, so the New York Small Farmer, I'm on the board of directors that works with all the small farms in New York State. We held an event. They won the Harvest Cup on
Hmm.
flying colors. Out of all the entries, they were the best, I think. So they're just doing great work. So, and I'm sure there's more growers out there, I'm sure that are listening that you know you're getting ready and getting going. So can't wait to see you guys out here and contribute because we need more of it. There's been a lot of difficulty with remediated cannabis in New York State going to market. So it's been tough.
Spectacular. Chimera, it's nice to see you. I hope all is well with you. Everyone, we're gonna take off now. I gotta get going, and I really appreciate the time. If anyone's interested, please check out our website, our page and the Five Elemental Conference. I think it'll be very valuable. I hope everyone's doing well. I hope your families are doing well, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Take care,
Thanks
Josh.
for coming up, Josh. Appreciate
seeing
you.
you.
Say hi to Kelly. See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Ryan and Bryan. Ryan and Bryan, both popping in at a similar time. Look at you guys. Names that rhyme and so much in common in regards to loving dank weed.
It's true. It's true. I just was gonna chip in that I heard good things about Taproots also from some musician friends of mine, Collin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your buddy Van.
Yeah. John
Yeah.
Brown's Body is back on the circuit here from back in the day.
Yeah. So
And
we
I
gotta
won't
catch
say more, but yeah, we should catch up and talk. So a lot of different moving pieces with art and just nothing but good things that I hear about those guys over there lately.
Yeah, they're one of us, man. If
Cool.
you guys are listening out there at Taproot Fields, you guys are blessed, and it's amazing to be amongst everybody and inspired by one another. So thanks for caring. As I said,
There's a lot of good people out there when you hone in on them, there's a lot of good people out there, especially it's easy to complain about a bunch of like bummer people that we find in our industry because there was a lot of them there for a while, but there's like a pretty cool core group of awesome people that are really into doing good things and are really into like sort of using the plant as a guiding light. And that's I just appreciate those folks out there. Take it seriously if you're gonna take it.
That was just the bomb rip. Beautiful, taking it and imagining a future, a flavor. I think it was the masterpiece. Some of the new flavors out there. Yeah, I saw that from Best Friend. I saw Chimera showing up his. What would you guys have out there?
This is some GMO by Gas Mask, just some fresh, newly cured melt. So this is actually my new little Piatella baby that I'm working on. Just whipped up this morning. It's got great color and consistency and definitely a raunchy GMO nose on it. The kind of gas cream on the end from the Gas Mask.
You smell it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The new flavors out there being actually quite nice. A lot of different female hunting going on.
Yeah, I'm feeling this a bunch of new stuff. We have some ZOZ back crosses that we've been working. Some ZOZ tie that we made. Actually, it's some really cool stuff, man. Seen a lot of really interesting flavor profiles that are just really delicious, really long lasting stuff that's more like typical of an OG, but in more of a exotic fruit realm. It's and with the sweet undertone, which is nice because haze, the Colombian haze is that sweet Colombian haze, that piffy sweetness, churchy. I'm always after trying to find that undertone. It's cool to find it in washers.
I'm trying to look for that too. I got a little bit of not the same piffy, spicy haze, but I have some input from Ghost Train Banana sherbet. So I'm not as familiar with that. It definitely adds a lot of like strong profile in on the haze side, but I'm lending it into the washing plants. Definitely seeing like the strawberry profile, Collin, with the, it's I guess my strawberry angel food, which went out to a Trop F2 with a ZBX on it. So I'm seeing some like Candy Z pop onto the strawberry banana tangy, some G13 Widow forum cut back in. So it's a big mash that makes it up, but I'm definitely seeing like a little bit of that haze input that comes out really complex, almost light spice on the fruit.
Yeah.
And then I was actually, wondering what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what kind of new turn into the, gas, fruit mixed together you're feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really into this sweet undertone. A lot of like the old family farm, the strawberry cough stuff, that that stuff seems to have this church vibe to it, and any outcross that we make with it does that. So we're hunting through a bunch of that kind of that to select something for commercial production. We also we have like I said, the ZOZ outcrosses. I have a couple of the stuff we didn't run of it here. Just pull up some of the, and then also Nag Champa. We've been running a bunch of Nag Champa outcrosses. Papaya, strawberry, banana. And then this whole bag here of stuff. We've been like, yeah, the papaya ZOZ 3.0. That's really fire. The blueberry thin mint times OGKB. That's really good. We found some excellent phenos in there that I think will live on, and I should give you a few cuts of that. And then some Fig Widow times Skittles times skunk. We've just popped, so I'll see how that goes. The Fig Widow to me was like, I don't know if anyone remembers that, but that was a really good hardy one that was really good for outdoor. So I'm hoping that we find some strong offspring and influence off of that. But I'm also like I keep thinking about that one that we washed together. It was like 7.5%, but the terps were just like just wrong, right? Like we didn't like the terp, like no one wanted it. They're like, that's just, I don't know what that is.
That was a Romulan BX4 on sour best shit ever. And
so like
no terp. I just had some hash chocolate made, actually hash chocolate bars where I'm actually eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like easy to blend in, not terpy.
But the hash up from it, I mean, Marcus was so clean, man. Like for whatever reason, it just was like some of the cleanest. Like I took, my camera to it, and we've all shot a lot of hash and no cleanup. Like I just looked at it, I was like, wow, this is
That's
like
a good breeder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good breeder.
So I'll have to dig back into that.
You really should
remember the children, and I'll dig back in.
Yeah, and then the gas mask, that's one of my favorites from you. I think that's the flavor profile on that. As you continue to outcross that, I think you just got to find the one that dumps and then checks every box.
Yeah, that's why I did this Gazmo project. I actually went with like a new back cross new IBL line, which was, male progeny BX2 gas mask on GMO cut last year outside. And I'm just like testing it out. I even went back into the mom again from that progeny. So I have some cool stuff to share with you, when we meet.
Yeah, the one thing that this is the other outcross that we're really liking is these the original diesel times Dosey Doe from Archive. We ran a bunch of stuff from him that original diesel clone, because we gave Streamy 420 the original clone when we were moving back when we were younger, and that Dosey Doe outcross, we're seeing some like incredible stuff from it. It's kind of cool.
That sounds like a really good breeding, staple right there, where you could lend profile onto that and get the really antique creamy gas from the headband, right? With not the overwhelming profile on the back end, to add into it. So seems.
Yeah, the original diesel is like insane to me. It just has this like, I don't know. It's a great breeding plant because it is much to be improved on, but the undertones on the way it produces its flavor profile is just, for me, they check every box. So, but yeah, it's how's the outdoor going for you, Bryon? It's a little wet this year. I'm looking outside right now. I mean, beautiful colors, but it's, we've had a rough last couple weeks with all although we have had a really dry summer, so it's been really awesome.
We
some
we had a great summer up here, actually. Even
Yeah.
right now into today, we have some rain coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
But like really surprised, almost kind of more, West Coast or NorCal-esque in the finish this year, where a lot of almost, Indian summer feel later in, much drier in the late than it was early up front. And I definitely saw some of the challenges in the yard with, the septoria, but didn't see very much botrytis this year or other ailments, and definitely saw some corn borers come in late with the heat in the late turn, kind of dug their way in. Heavy winds, but all in all, like really, really good season for the flowers up here in Maine. And I'd say like double to triple, the production of and quality of what it was last year with a really rough year. And just really thick nugs and juicy resin, and the terps are popping. So they seem to like whatever, intensity of the sun we had this summer seemed turned way up, at least for the East Coast, to share that. Like sunburn early out there, everything was turned up for that for this summer for us. So I think we're going to see some of those results already coming in up here for the market and whatnot into medical. Good hash this year, and a lot of it in Maine, more than we've seen.
Yeah, this year is like just it's been a great summer. I've been a little concerned since the hurricanes, but and today in, New England, it's a little gray. New York, New England, I think is a little gray today and rainy. But yeah, it's been tough because it gets warm and then it gets cool. Especially in the Hudson Valley, it's a little challenging. So, but yeah, Maine has the terps, it's good. Nice. Awesome. Is that gas mask?
This here is a strawberry smoothie band, like one of my winter plants. This year I found a couple, Collin, out here that were like just really resistant. I didn't crack beans until May 5th. So I tried a little later in just to see like what happens. But anyway, this was a winner that just threw big later on, big enough, like a 3-pounder, for a late start. And what I paid attention to more this year, I was going to like share that in as far as what can lend, I think, into production for sure, but also home growing purposes with the breeding, when I'm definitely like a lot into breeding my own plants for personal use, for my own, and then outward to other patient friends with this, yourself, those who love it. So with like the home breeding side, I'm trying to go a little deeper with the production time that it takes for these plants based on like leaf to calyx ratio. So a few more like boxes to check, little further out than just wonderful terps and it makes some hash, or even dumps hash. So that plant was a great example of like really short work time, whether you're trimming for fresh frozen or for flower. And again, either whether it's like production or personal, seems to go to both, whether you're doing your own at home or you're trying to, get things done with efficiency for production. So yeah, saw some results there. I can't wait to share this plant with you. We're about to see how it washes, but very happy.
That sounds incredible. I know all the strawberry crosses you've shown me have been like kind of awesome, like not just awesome, but exceptionally unique. That's really cool to hear. All of those lines. I'm a huge fan of the Strawberry Field stuff. I don't know if anyone remembers the Strawberry Fields family stuff, but that's where Kyle's cut came from. It's where it's where it all originated from on the East Coast, from my understanding. Maybe Sam has a different understanding of it, but
that's where this cut comes from, Collin, that went in originally. So the story is 8 years ago with the strawberry story for me here. Is out in Southern Humboldt. My last year, 8 seasons ago, I actually had some plants come in from Jacob, my friend Have Hash, and brought in some kind of newer day plants or terp feel for the hash game, and tried out a selection of several phenos of that Strawberry Fields, which was strawberry banana tangy. And I just went heavier on the strawberry forward I kind of didn't leave behind, but looked, a bit past and went primary focus on strawberry heavy. So bananas kind of pushed away a little and tangies pushed to the side. So I focused on the strawberry. And then when I brought back, I did some crosses with my angel food cake, that, G13 Widow cushion cookie thing in there, candy chem thrown in, East Coasty West Coast mashup kind of work. And then I brought that strawberry feel out here to Maine with some of the beans I had produced out there, tried them here right away. And it just is a cool thing where that strawberry, it likes it here in Maine. And it keeps its color really light white and tons of resin. Smell up front, it has the 2-week terps that I'm looking for, so definitely saw those lean out into the more of the family with the 2-week terps. And yeah, I guess something to be said maybe for, it wasn't the cleanest, area to do that in the middle of the field out there. It's kind of tucked in the woods in southern Humboldt. Definitely had some of the, blight creeping in issues at times by the end. It wasn't the most optimal feel for a field, but it lent really well into what seems to be resistance factor into the breeding from out there, a different region out coming to here, bred outside. So a little bit of info back out, to promote that kind of proper breeding done from people shared in different areas. And Sam would be, one to, know more on this, how this works and what he's seeing. But I'm seeing some shared results of different regions when it's actually conscious breeding for, resistance being into it, but what shines for vigor and health, and then lent into another region, kind of working into our lines where if you're doing your own breeding can kind of, meet together, merry meeting ground of different things. And that's definitely of interest where, the cream rising to the top, people doing the really good work with focused breeding and then putting some of those pieces together.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. And as you work towards that, I've definitely seen the evolution of it, and it's been cool because each time it's getting better and better and better, and it's only going to get increase. That's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going well.
Well, it made me want to smoke all of those things that you were mentioning and talking about. People ask me all the time what my favorite flavor is, and lately, really and truly, it is whatever was grown the best, whatever was allowed to express the best. That is truly my favorite. And I just, I have a deep appreciation for people that somehow have a savant relationship with the plant and can get it to do things that other people can't seem to do. So shout out to the far and the few, the true 1%ers. Appreciate you guys.
Etienne, when you're touring the farms, what were the main varietals that you were seeing grown out there at scale?
So many. I mean, a lot are still doing experimentals, a lot of, Skittles, varietals. There, let me flip some. It's hard. I wish Mojave were on here. I was more of just kind of photographing and shooting pot porn than as much as paying attention to what was in the fields. But let's see. OG Kush, which is always good to see. Let's see. Airheads. You familiar with that one? HEIR. There seem to be a lot of crosses around that. Lemon cherry sherbet, granddaddy purple. So Moroccan peaches, grape gas, apple Scotty, lemon cherry gelato. Cereal milk, Durban.
Just took a dab of cereal milk. It's quite lovely.
Crumpets, more cereal milk. Nimbus, lemon cherry gelato. Nimbus was really looking pretty phenomenal. Certs, a lot of certs, pink certs, and Moroccan peaches blends. So yeah, it runs the traditional as well as the new. I didn't get all I saw in upstate New York when I was there was what's at the government spot, and that was everything that they had, which I did get their master list, which I have, and it just runs the whole gambit of ferals, domestic to international to known varietals. So it's just rather fascinating. What's going up in upstate New York mostly? What are you seeing, Colin?
Um, a big gamut of stuff. We're so connected now. It's like everyone wants to say they got this or that, but at the end of the day, they're like at scale, they're like, oh, I'm growing GMO or I'm growing, it's like it's fun to see because as individual as we want to be, there's like crazy herd mentality in terms of just commercialization, so um, people are not willing to take their own steps forward to select their own moms and then find that particular mom. And, as we've talked a lot
So
about,
they're limited to buy what's available, the clones that are available on the market, as opposed to creating new genetics. Is that what you're stating, or?
what I'm getting at is there's some people are going super left, meaning like they're working with just their own stuff, and then there's others that are just working with clones that are available in the marketplace. And we can all argue, oh, that's problematic to be going with your own stuff because you're constantly searching. But at the same time, if you're really in tune with what you have, it probably could work out for you. So if you're constantly like asking for that guidance, maybe not so much. So that's where
here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
When you guys talk about plants, you use these like very descriptive words and like really ethereal terms of like what is what. Like you don't talk about plants in the terms of like what their actual chemical makeup is. And I don't know if that's because you don't have enough access to analysis or it's just too expensive to run these. But if you guys were able to start characterizing the plants you had and understanding what compounds are causing those flavors, you could properly breed the plants so that you're searching for them. Because like saying stuff like, oh, people like they have to go and grow their own plants and search for their own moms that have some like insert flowery descriptive. Cannabis is such a weird outcrosser that even when you self it with that kind of direction, you can't go into the population and find the plants that you're talking about. Right.
Well,
and it's partly because everybody that's breeding the species, like this is just the reality. Like I'm not cutting down anybody specifically, but the way that people are breeding, they're just crossing random stuff to random stuff. And that leads to like these massive polyhybrids that segregate when you start looking and then the offspring. And people can't find the plants that you guys are talking about or describing, right? Because they're just so random in the offspring pool.
right.
And
So, yeah,
so like and so you should be able to grow a GMO on scale because GMO is just a scent profile and a cannabinoid profile, right? But that stuff is inherited. You can breed the plants in such a way that those traits are inherited reliably. Okay. And then it just is a matter of taking that background plant and improving all the other characteristics like yield and resistances and like all the important plant architecture traits, right? So
sure. Well, to speak just before we get too far, I just want to speak on one thing. GMO is a phenotype and a chemotype of a particular set of a population, right? So let's just call that out. So what I'm getting at is
well, it's
with
no,
you,
but it's a cultivar. It's a selected individual that's genetically unique, right? Like this whole it's a phenotype of a
ChemDog, it's
line.
Girl Scout cookie times ChemDog, and I think what we're both saying this similar, basically the same thing, saying it differently is what I'm hearing is yes, I agree with you because I agree with you, but I also think it's important to call out in the United States, we have clone houses that have these distilled down selections as we're talking about that are so-called proven. But to your point, if you don't know where it came from, you may not be actually growing GMO. You may be growing a chemo type like
100%.
it, but at
Well,
scale, if it's
it's
not the
not a
one,
chemotype like it though.
you know, if you're not growing that
Listen,
particular.
when you're talking about phenotypes, like
Mhm.
everybody kind of gets wrapped up in this term phenotypes. You
Mhm.
can't, if you have like what's called a strain, or really it's a biological type, right? I hate the word strain. You know, I'm going to go on about it all day, but uh, um, it's because it's not a descriptive term. Like something that's a strain, like in biology, something that is a strain, when it reproduces, that biological type that identifies the thing comes back over and over and over again, right?
Right.
Like it's always present in the offspring. It is the offspring. That's the
Sure.
definition of a strain, is something that when you reproduce it is the offspring are like the parent. Okay. And we know with cannabis that it doesn't do that. Right. And the reason is it doesn't do that is because it's like, I mean, you might find that individual somewhere in the next
Right.
generation. But when you're talking if you're talking about phenotypes, it's not, right? Because you can't have different phenotypes within a strain. It's one biological type, right?
Yeah, but there are the expressions of those plants say, and then here's the other thing that's complex, right? And
It's
we'll just
not,
call it.
it's, but we're not talking about, it's not the expression that changes, dude. Like, if it was, if, even if it was the expression, you wouldn't have different individuals within the line, right? Expression related to environment applies to the whole population, not individuals,
Right, we're
right?
saying the
So
same
that's
thing.
why the word strain is wrong, okay?
No, it's not
So,
wrong. Just different understandings, different approaches. There's a
no,
scientific
it's
approach, and
no,
there's a
it's
field
not.
approach.
It's not different understandings.
There
It
are.
the word strain
There
doesn't
are.
apply to plants. I'm sorry, like it just doesn't.
It's not
And
sorry. It's different understandings for
Yeah,
how
well,
we.
I think what Brian's
respectfully,
saying,
like
I think
I'm
what
saying this with all
Brian,
respect, dude.
No, I understand.
Respectfully, different
I think
understanding means you don't understand what the word means, because that's what a strain is, right?
so.
Like
Ryan,
strains is not an appropriate word to
Right.
use for plants because it's just not. Like the people that I'm not trying to be a dick. Like I'm talking about the facts of what it is. Okay. So
I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you at all. I think what Brian's trying to say is that we're so far, the genie's so far out of the bottle that we still have so much to go in education. To your point, Ryan, like the vernacular that we're talking about right now, we don't even have the right terminology down for everyone yet, right? So that's a problem. And then when you're talking about these phenotypical expressions, I'm talking about agricultural stuff. Like if you're selecting from seed of that same population, you're going to get plants that may be susceptible, and you have to do that selection process all the way over again to then get to commercialize, right? So
right, but
that's
they're not. There's if you're doing that, you're
fine.
just proving my point.
Fine.
If you're doing that process, there
Yep,
is no biological type within the seed line, right?
I
Like
agree
that's
with
the
you.
entire point. Okay.
Totally agree with you.
And
Yeah,
so the idea is that we need to get the plant to a place. One, I mean, like you said, people don't even understand what a chemical profile is.
correct.
Like that's why you're seeing differences, what people call different phenotypes within a line. They're
Yeah,
different chemical profiles. They smell different, right?
yeah,
And they smell different and they taste different because they are different. They have different genes than the parents did, right? They
correct.
have some of the genes that the parents did, but
Mhm.
they're not the same as the parents, right? And
Right.
so when you take like a clone, like say call it ChemDog, it doesn't matter, cookies, it doesn't matter what name we're talking about. You take any plant, you cross it to something else, it's now different. So if
Mhm.
you send those seeds out the door with the name of the parent, you're doing everybody in the industry a complete disservice, right?
100%.
Because then what happens is some random newbie that doesn't know about the history
Right.
of the plant comes along, it sees, oh, these are ChemDog seeds. I'm going to go into this population and find ChemDog, and they find a plant that is completely different, right?
That's my point of earlier with the farmers buying seeds that they're not in tune with. They're not understanding where the progeny
It's
came
not
from.
it's not necessarily that they're not in tune with them. The producers haven't done a good enough job of, don't just let me finish the point, okay? Like the producers haven't done a good enough job of one, reproducing a biological type within the seed line, or two, describing that plant in terms of its unique chemistry that makes it the thing that we know it is, right?
Both.
Because, and I see it all over the world. Like I was just in England and someone pulled out a plant and showed me, oh man, smell this. It's gassy. Dude, it's not anything even close to what we even use to describe gas, right? And so the point is these terms and these kind of flowery, loose descriptors, they float around the world and they mutate and they mean different things to different people. And and then the patients from all over the world come together and they start trying to use these terms to describe things that might, like Johnny B was saying, like describe a type that might make them feel a certain way or provide the relief that they need, right? And so like it's a total F up. Like we need to, that's why like as producers and the people that are finding these plants and calling them special, it's not good enough to just call it guava grape jam or whatever and give it some funky name. Sure, that's part of the marketing, right? But like you also have to describe the type that is the thing that you've made, right? So that when people do grow out the seeds, they know what they're looking for to be along the right path, right? Or better yet, we need to get better at being able to breed these plants so that we're actually giving the next generation, the people that buy the seeds, the expectation of what we want them to have.
That's if you're selling seeds. That's if your intent is to sell seeds. For others, you know, that it can be just either hobby, production of your own for medical, where I'm not even adult use here in Maine. I'm medical, so I'm just making an example. And I like from you.
I get all that. I get all that, but the
if
problem
we can
is
do our work from the field to pick plants that are really good because we like them, and other people do too, then it could get some help from the other side to actually, I understand, like that's how I'm seeing this, is we could use some help from that end outward.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would love to give, I'm trying to give help to people. Like I would love for people to start understanding the stuff so that even those people that are doing it, they at least have a heuristic and a method. But the problem is what right now has been going on the last 20 years is these people that are just like you're saying, they're making medicine, they're becoming famous on the internet. They end up start seed companies, right? And then they're spreading all this like home hobby crosses, polyhybrid, respectfully crap that sure you might find some good parents in there, but it all it does is it muddies the entire water of the gene pool.
It also makes it extremely hard to breed with multi-poly hybrids because if you're looking for F1 vigor, F1 fire, and you don't know what the background is so that you can get two different backgrounds, you're not going to find F1 vigor.
You know, Sam, it hit me. I was thinking about, you know, all these projects that we have ongoing that I've talked to you about. And it hit me the other day. It was one of the first things that you told me about skunk and your intention for making skunk. Like for people that don't know, Sam was a lifetime member of the America Seed Savers Association, right? And he realized early on, as one of these pioneers of people crossing the plants, that exactly what I just said. You grow seeds, they don't come up looking like the parents, right? And so he wanted to create a seed line that when you crossed it together, the offspring looked like mom. And then if you cross the offspring together, they look like mom, right? And you did it like really, I mean, compared to what else is in the market, you did a totally spectacular thing. It might not be corn, but it's pretty true breeding. And that concept has just been lost in cannabis.
Well,
right?
you got to
Because it's
remember,
always
Ryan, I think I've told you this.
It's always
that,
been a problem.
I did not force the plants to be true breeding. In other words, if you cross a
ended
red,
up that way.
if you cross a red and a white flower, it can be pink. But if you cross those two of those pink ones together, or one of them because they're probably perfect flowers, they'll segregate out into the red and the white a lot of times, unless they're codenominate. But with skunk, what I did was I took indica sativas, and I made a F1 generation between like Colombian and then Afghan. But I also did it with a bunch more hybrids that I had made and hybrids of other friends of mine, the F1 hybrids. So I grew those. Then I made F2 seeds from them, and I grew those. And they all segregated to fuck, to be honest, except for skunk. I mean, it barely segregated it at all. So instead of doing 10 years of hard work, I, use skunk.
Yeah.
So was that the heterozygosity of that particular population that allowed that to happen, you think?
It
Just
wasn't
that
it was I don't know what to say because I had tested skunk at a what's it called, Ryan, where they test for the copies of chromosomes and stuff. I
Oh,
forget
flow cytometry. Yeah.
yeah, flow cytometry. And it turned out that skunk number one was more uh homogeneous than any of the northern industrial hemp varieties here in Europe,
From
for
what
example.
generation did they test it?
What's that?
Which generation did they test? Like which line did they test?
Well, they were testing the seeds that I was selling, which was coming from two clones that I had selected here in Europe, and but I had stealthed them for about 10 years, between sweetening it up and selecting for branchiness and resin and blah blah blah, flower to
You,
leaf ratio.
and for clarity, you mean selfing on a population level, right?
Yeah, selfing on a population level. Correct. And then when I finally got clones that I liked from a 20,000 seed trial grow out, uh, I picked out 10 boys and 10 girls, and then the next year grew those and found out which ones of those two had the best specific combining ability for the traits I was looking for.
Yeah, and everything you're saying right now, I mean, part of the problem is that that work was pre 1998 Dutch law, right? So there was
Correct. Yes.
you
And not
you
only
could
that, but the yeah, people just don't want to work on the scale that I was working on. I was taking the best
that's
of the best of the best.
yeah.
it's expensive, man. That's where my problem is. Like, to get back to your question, Chimera, is like, Ryan, I I send everything in. I get samples of everything and then I compare it. I look at the genome. Kevin works really closely with me and we have deep conversations about what could possibly be a good pairing for things. But I still believe after all the years that I've spent doing this, that it's still very much still sort of a shot in the dark in a lot of respects. I mean, you can get close, but
Well,
man, does it lead down new rabbit holes, right? Like new
it's
thing.
trust me, listen, it's not well, it's the methodology that's the shot in the dark. That's the problem.
Yeah, but
Right. And
process is process, right? So if you have a process, Ryan, you know this, you're a musician like I am. Process is due process matters, right? And you have to have controls. And to have controls in an industry like ours is very difficult without a huge war chest of money. So you can only
so
do
yeah,
so much.
no,
So
I get
all
it. And
that,
that's
you
listen,
know,
and it's not a criticism of the individual. That's what I'm saying. It's a criticism of the method, right? It's a flaw because it's so expensive to do this work, right?
right.
Like
Even the
if you
biggest breeders, right? Like we can both agree they're not doing the real work that you and I know that needs to be done. And it's part of, again, like I agree with everything you're saying. And it's part of why I believe that we need to continue getting people the legitimate, progeny, like, so they know if they're working with ChemDog, it is ChemDog, right? They deserve that because
yeah, well, I mean,
What is Kim Dog? Is it a poly multi hybrid?
it has to be Sam because it's a bag seed, right? So it can,
That's what I'm presuming.
right. So
they were
if
in, yeah, I would say they were in a chemical family. They had certain chemicals that I only saw the three, right? I saw the Chem 91, the four, and whatever the other one was. Not Chem
MD
91,
and then
MD,
there's two
MD.
other ones. Anyway, but it's yeah, but
They're,
it's
they
similar.
are they are within a biological or a chemical family, but they're missing certain traits. So to me, that says that that the genome is segregating, right, at some degree.
Well, it's like the sour diesels that I'm trying from people. It reminds me of when I was younger, when I would grow sour out and have a bunch of seeds and I pop them all. those same profiles that people are giving me flour of remind me of those seeds that I would pop as bag seeds that just didn't quite check the box. That they kind of looked like it, but it was a little wonky, and didn't quite get there.
Yeah,
But
and
it was good
listen, the
enough.
reason
Right?
is that I harp on this stuff because I want it to be that way where
Yeah.
like and look, it's a huge issue for production. Like essentially if we're doing production based on clones, that means the world's going to have HLVD, right?
But
We're going to
I don't
cost
think
Yeah.
that I
Yes.
don't think that ChemDog has, maybe I could be wrong, but a lot to do with chemical anything. It's actually just like a cultural tag phrase from ChemDog, perhaps himself. Collin, you would know the story more.
Greg, I
So
mean,
it doesn't have much, Greg, it doesn't have to do with the chemical compound. Dog is old dogweed from the lot days, the old DOW2 dogweed. And then ChemDog himself was on the lot. And I don't know where it goes from there, but that's his tag. That's
right.
Greg's tag.
Well, and
yeah, so
again, like I
culturally,
don't
this is
I
a
don't
Cultural.
care
cultural
about
thing.
I,
Yeah.
like I try not to care about the names of the plants. So the
Yeah, but people do.
I
And it
know,
goes
I know
from the
everyone wants
history
the
of
story, but
culture,
you can't breed a
decades.
story, right? You
No,
can't
but
breed.
there's decades. It's fine.
Respectfully, though, it's really important to our background because the Dead was a huge proponent of carrying a lot of there. It was like the Silk Road for a lot of us, where we got exposed in the United States to good herb. Like I know for Canadians it wasn't, it's very foreign, and maybe
Well,
Europeans
listen,
foreign
Canada's got
concept.
their own stories too, and I also don't care about those stories, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to know the people, but like, I'm trying to improve the plant here. Like, I want to leave better plants for future generations to work with,
I think we all do
We
it
all
together.
do.
I
We all
think we
do.
all do it together.
We
right?
all do.
So
Like we,
I try to separate the ego because there's all this in the cannabis industry and the fame and whatever. There's all this ego. I hate that stuff. Like,
right.
I want to talk about science and the plants and making the plants better,
We
right?
do get
And
we
for some reason at the breeder level, like those two things, they just kind of like they can't get out of each other's way, right?
Here,
And
maybe here's a good.
so for example, like if you're a seed company or you're sharing medicine, great, share medicine, like whatever, that's not on scale. But when you become a seed company and you're actually like putting out a bunch of lines, Sam's known for one line, right? Like, yeah, sure, he brought a couple others and ushered some other ones, but he worked on one line for 10 years. You know, nobody does that nowadays, right? And it's like if people would focus on like, hey, I'm going to spend 5 years trying to lock down this set of traits within a seed line, that's an incredible genetic legacy for like tons of people to work with, right? Because now we have something that's like stable in one chemical sense, and it's not
agree.
that it's that hard. It just takes like a
You
little
just
bit.
have, Ryan, the trouble is you haven't seen my latest variety. It's skunk melon chocolate
So,
strawberry banana.
Well, I was looking at your breeding facility early this year, so I know I know exactly what your latest project was.
It is an interesting discussion that you bring up, Ryan, because it's kind of like where it's come from and the way a lot of people have been trained to do this work have not been, through the channels that you yourself have gone through. And so there is a different level. I guess we look to you and guys like you for this knowledge and this information because it isn't common sense. It isn't just like something that everyone knows.
It's
And there's different,
anti-common. It's
it's
anti-common,
yeah, of course. Of
right?
course. But let's make it common.
Brian,
Yeah.
it's what spawned me, dude, was like I think because I'm so into technicality of music and inversions and how we can extend things and just blow our own minds, right? And much like breeding, it's very much I live for that, exactly what you just said, right? And I hate the sensationalism that's become of all the things that even some of the stuff I've done, like I hate it. I'll just say it out loud. I hate the sensationalism because really what I think we all want to be known for is the technicality and all the technical things that it took to get to that inflection point. And that's the work that's really uncool and just hard and lonely and honestly self-fulfilling in its own right. But it's necessary because to your point, we don't really have the right due process for breeding, and we all buy seeds and we all pop seeds and we companies spend tons of money on cultivating things that sometimes amount to nothing. So I agree with you, man. And it's heartbreaking for me because I'm still fighting for that 17-year-old self, right? Trying to just live in that search discovery mode. But to your point, we've got to grow up and do it right and have the right conversations. So
Yeah,
I
we can
really
and
respect
if we
your point of
take
view. I'm trying to
if
say.
we take the hard route, we actually end up satisfying the 17-year-old, I think, better, right?
Yeah,
That inner
dude, I
first
said that to Kevin.
the person that we were when we first encountered it. It's like you kind of want to believe that the world is the way that you think it is, right? But it's like when you actually get down into the science of the way the plant's breeding in the seed market, dude, it's I used to have it in my email signature. It was the biggest threat to the cannabis gene pool is the global cannabis seed market,
Yeah.
right? It's like the seed market itself is the worst thing for the plant. Um, and you guys aren't quite there yet, but in Canada now we have federal legalization, and so I start to think about these things on a different level. Like, and I see the problems with industry. Like, look, growing clones for production versus growing seeds are way better,
Yeah.
right? If you had, imagine you had ChemDog in a seed or whatever phenotype that of a plant that you think is the ideal type, it's possible to breed seeds to be that way, right? 100% reproducing
Yeah.
that.
I mean, to your point, I've seen it, I've lived it. I mean, I populated, 10, 18 to 2,200 square foot rooms with just seed, and I saw incredible things happen, right? And I agree with you, and that's kind of what spawned my at scale, like you're thinking. We need to think about this in a more broader sense because look, my clones didn't produce the same way those seeds did at all. I'll tell you right now, wasn't even close. I mean, they're great, but not like that.
You get
So
chemical uniformity. You don't get the performance of growing a plant from seed.
yeah, yeah,
And on the economics of it, I mean, you run big facilities. Think of how much of a percentage of your facility is your mudge room and your mother room and your veg space that feeds the clone production.
I
And
mean,
then you got like potential for bugs in there, labor, viruses, viroids. Like it's a total freaking nightmare, right?
yeah,
And if you could buy seed and
yep,
get rid of that whole component of your,
Yeah, but that's the problem, Ryan. If you could buy seed.
well, you can't yet. Yeah, I like to think of it as when you can buy seed, right?
Okay,
Because it is coming one
I
day.
think that's reasonable.
Yeah,
so
it's just
let
again
me
the
ask
reason
you
that we're
guys.
not getting there is because we're not changing our habits, right? We're still just like closet breeders becoming rock stars on the internet,
So
right?
we
And
get
everybody
Ryan,
dealing with it.
because
And
I'm
we
a
find some
facility.
neat plants. Like I'm not saying that it doesn't like Brian, to your credit, I'm sure you guys are finding awesome plants. I'm not saying that you're not finding really
I could use
interesting
some
new
real-
flavor plants.
I could use your help, actually, like really could. Where as far as if we can isolate those, sequences that actually show what I'm looking for instead of, not wasting, enjoying, but having years, taking literally years, like, to isolate the generations that come from to try to mark, because I'm trying to mark for like resistance from the mother. And I'm seeing these micro signs out in the progeny, where I go, "Ooh, that's like mom, and it's going to be healthy and have the right hash." But if I can, and I'll talk to Collin more, but if I can get actually more scientific edge on it or help from some, friends, that I could actually not waste my time, actually waste my time on off-shot phenotypes, that aren't what I'm looking for. I could really shave the time, efficiency and the time of years it takes to get there with help.
And
Well,
we're getting,
everything's about to change because
yeah, that's
when you
David saying it.
breed for resistance,
Right.
let me tell you, breeding for resistance in cannabis takes huge volumes of plants. I mean, with molecular biology, you can certainly do it with smaller numbers, but without it, you're looking for the one in 1,000.
Right.
And it's a cost thing. Again, it comes back to a cost thing. And listen, I got nothing wrong. Kevin McKernan is a brilliant individual in many regards, specifically genomics and understanding the genetics of sequencing and all that kind of stuff.
We've also done a really cool
He's a
thing.
private service though right now. He's a for-profit service, and this endeavor is one where you can't be paying for profit providers because it's just too expensive, right? Like it becomes about sample cost, right? What is your cost per plant? Just forget the growing cost economics of it. There's a science cost per plant. You've got your genomics testing, and then you've got your chemical analysis for ideally for every plant. And they've got the genomics down to the cost now through with academic institutions where it's like, call it $5 a plant, maybe $10 a plant. Let's say
So it's the
750.
same price as a GC.
I
Well,
think
no,
Kevin,
GC is about 30 US for a full cannabinoid and
Yeah,
terpenoid
we were
blend.
doing it in-house, so we had minimal costs.
That is in-house, modern in-house cost is about 30
Yeah,
bucks.
but I paid my employees pretty cheaply.
And inflation, like, truthfully, when you were doing it, $3 is probably worth $30 today. So, or getting towards it at least. Um, but yeah, like there's the per sample cost. And if you're doing, again, it becomes times 100 times 1,000 because how many plants are you growing to truly understand the traits. But it's an investment, but again, the rewards that you reap are so worth it.
Yeah. But we used to
And it
also
also saves you growing costs. Like if you can do these genomic costs when the seeds are like yay big, they're tiny little seedlings. You take your genetic sample, 4 weeks later, you've got the ability to kill 90% of the plants, right? You don't have to run them through your production
I
system.
love to kill.
You do. I know you're like the anyway, I won't make that joke, but yeah, you have definitely killed more cannabis plants. It's funny. You changed my mind on that because I remember thinking to myself at one point in time, I don't like killing plants, and you said, "Oh yeah, I love to kill plants." It's like, oh yeah, okay.
Color.
It's only about saving the really, really best ones, and you got to kind of,
Dude,
I
it's
don't know, get
exactly
off
what
on
he
it.
does with the hash. I'll never forget the picture of after he cleaned out the sift, and I went into his bathroom and threw like a kilo of it into his toilet, the chuff that was like small heads and non-heads basically. And he's like, this is what I do. Poof, right in the toilet, flush down the toilet. I took a picture of that and it enraged the internet. Like the internet got so fucking mad at that picture.
Well, I was just making water hash.
Yeah, you were making water hash, all right. He's taking like the 1% of heads out of the sift and then just flushing everything else, like a kilo at a time. Like people were just like, you could see their souls just like cracking and breaking in half as they were exposed to that picture. Just one of the many
I
good.
remember one time burning. It was like, I don't know, maybe 50 gallons or more of dry sip that had been made. And the we were hoping to have it THC isolated from it uh, legally with working with a very, very large Eastern European pharmaceutical company. But the shit hit the fan, and it turned out that the the law had been written about ecstasy really poorly, and they mis described the molecule in this Eastern European country, and some Dutch kids went there. They had to make I don't know 3,000 to 4,000 kilos of ecstasy, and just before I was ready to deliver all my resin to this pharmaceutical company, this shit had happened and it hit the fans, and yeah. All of the ecstasy disappeared all over Europe. I don't know where it went. I think some hippie dogs ate it or something.
I might know where some of it went. I'm
It,
just
it's
joking.
it's funny. Your life, I find like your life changes when you get to that point with your relationship with cannabis where you truly live in cannabinoid abundance, right? Like it's everywhere. Not that it's everywhere, but it's like you have enough, you don't have to worry about it or think about it. And when you're throwing away 99% of your trichomes, like there's a lot of people that don't live in cannabinoid abundance and that would enrage them. Like, they have to go through a lot to get their need, or they spend a lot of money or whatever, right? When the world
Oh,
has cannabinoid
all right.
abundance,
Next time, what I'll do is I'll put it in plastic bags and send it to China.
Listen, I will be honest. I know what Ryan is talking about because there was a time when I was still smoking joints back in the late 90s where I had the most outrageous roach collection. It was disgusting. It was just big jars full of roaches.
We
And
all did that,
I
Marcus.
get it, but I took it to another level. I'm not from you. I definitely didn't take it from another level from you, but I took it from another level from a lot of people. And when people saw it, they would just be like, what the fuck, dude? That's outrageous. And one day I was like, I'm throwing this away. And I think it was Hillary that was like, oh, I know someone at the club that would love that. They smoke roaches and I'm like, really? Like, so I gave it to this dude. Dude, I got thank yous on Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays and celebrations from this guy for fucking years. He'd be like, today it was a haze roach. And just, like the roaches were huge. They were generous. They were good. I can't believe it personally. I feel bad that I should have just given the guy like a pound of weed and not been such a cheap Charlie, but he loved it.
Well, what I did was I collected about a pound of roaches, undid them all, and tried to scrape a little of the black shit away before I undid them, and then re-rolled it. It was the nastiest fucking. I mean, it got me really stoned, but it was Lodo stones, couch lock stone, Narcado stone. I guess it was
CBN stoned.
CBN or something.
Wow, Jesus, think about the tar ratio to cannabinoids. I mean, from a health perspective, it's like, the way I look at it, it's kind of like taking your like Thanksgiving scraps and giving them to the poor, right? That don't have any food to eat,
That's
right?
not,
Like it's
it's
just
not
it's
good.
it's what's the sad part is that people they don't have food to eat. They don't have proper food to eat, right?
It's
The
more
solution
like
is
giving cigar butts instead of throwing them on the street. You hand them to the bum.
Dude, I'm telling you, I felt bad about it, but Hillary was like, no, he'll really appreciate it. And I will say that I gave away pounds of
oh,
cannabis to the
absolutely.
BC
But
Compassion Club, so
look,
I
it's a
don't feel
factor
quite
of
as bad.
it's a factor of where the business is, and someone's giving me some grief in chat, but it's like, listen, the point that this comes from is you have to imagine a better future and work towards it, right? And we're just going to get more of the same all over and over and over again, right? So, like, man, imagine if everybody had full meld, right? Like, people didn't have to be smoking crappy Pubco mid weed, right? Like, think of the damage that does to their lungs versus being able to have one small bong rip of the top quality, right? And Sam, with figuring out the full melt and taking the 1% and throwing away the rest, he lived in a world where he could do that, right? It's just I want that for everybody. I want that for cannabis, and
Dude,
I want.
me too. That is exactly what I want for everybody.
No,
I feel
my
like,
dream has always been you go into the health store with a big scoop,
oh
and
yeah,
you pull out a scoop of whatever heads it is you feel like that day, haze or skunk
haze.
or whatever, and you buy a pound of it, and it costs you $10 or whatever.
Well, and it should be so
God.
easy, right? I mean, you can do that with like, I'm imagining in my head being in a health food store and getting a really nice organic brown sugar, right? Like out of a tub. Like it should be that same cost and that same lack of maybe regulation on the production, but lack of controls in the sales. Like you can imagine trying to do that in the Canadian market, Mark, right? Like
You guys
you
couldn't
couldn't
do
do
it.
it, right?
I
But
really
Yeah,
that's
because they make rules that like handcuff you in the Canadian market. The people that made the rules never grew or processed a plant, so they had no real idea of the sort of subtle nuances that occur in particular SOPs. And then also, it doesn't help that we're paying like $1,000+ for a full panel from a lab.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Chimera.
really expensive, man.
It's
Those
expensive.
those jars that you have in your fridge at the lab, I'd like to just see a label on that.
We have
Right.
labeled all our jars.
No, I just mean like I could buy it off the shelf,
Oh,
Yes.
right? Like I'd
yeah.
love to see Mark with a shelf space of just like 50 or 100 of those jars for sale. That's the way it should be sold,
Yeah.
right? Um, and we could produce it. We got the technology now that we could almost produce the scale and the quality to do that.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people are terrified of scale. They don't believe you can scale quality. that or purity in regards to like water hash and dry
I
sift, but more.
absolutely disagree.
Yeah,
You
because
can't.
you're the fucking anomaly that instead of complaining that it can't be done, you went and did it. I also 1000% agree, particularly for water hash, where people say, "Oh, well, yeah, you
Multiple
lose the
systems.
soul when you get into the large machines." It's like, no, we're
No,
purifying
the truth
heads.
of it
That's all we're
is
doing.
Yeah,
you can
and
you can
you evolved that craft. I mean, we went from the bubble. I mean, look, you took the water hash bag idea, melded it with that multiple screen concept, and changed the freaking world. And then put the machines on top of it. Like, of course we can do it on scale. The question is, can we find a grower that can produce where do you find the grower that can produce on that scale and prep the material so that it's ready to go into the machine?
I know
it
one in
it can be
Amsterdam.
done. You can find growers and processors because you just have to find people who are 100% committed to quality over quantity.
Which
Or
means a protocol, right? Which means following a
yes,
protocol and
and
process.
you
It
just
comes back
never,
exactly what
never,
Colin was
never
saying,
break it.
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like, you
exactly. It's
have
the
the process in
SOPs.
place.
You don't hire people that think they're smarter than the SOPs.
That's right. That's the biggest mistake.
That's a
Also
bad
known
one.
as people who think there's a fast way to do what you just told them to do the wrong way.
Well, that's exactly how it leads into what I was saying, where you're just like, I know a better way. It's like, well, you should, I implore you to use your better way on your dollar in your lab when you're doing it for yourself. And while you're over here on our dollar, in our lab, just do it the way the red binder says to do it. Do it like that.
Yeah.
I vote that Chimera gets his own facility and starts breeding again. How about that?
Yeah,
We-
well, I'm working on
we
raising
get
the
you
funds
on.
right now to do that. And I'm also doing some crazy biotechnological stuff to try to engineer some plants in a way that we can do these things. All right. Like
Where's home
we
for you? Is
we
home
need
Canada?
homozygous or not homozygous. We need 100% uniform seed
Yeah, I agree.
that matches a type, right? Like that would change the game.
And how do you think that's going to be accomplished? By double haploids or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, dihap's are a crucial step in it. It's the what technology uses to produce the dihap, and that's what I'm working on. You
Stability.
can do it by growing pollen grains, but that's not efficient. It's not. We haven't figured out how to do that in an efficient way in cannabis, and I think even when we do, the biotech route will be better. Um, and you can essentially engineer plants that you can turn them into haploids. You can harvest haploid types from the parents that you can make into dihaps and then cross those two plants back together in it's called recapitulating the hybrid. So essentially you end up with a population of seeds that are all like the seed, the parent that it came from. Right.
How about breaking down some of those terms for the people listening? You know, you don't have to go and spend
Okay,
hours
so
doing it, but just
haploids,
brief.
humans are not only humans, all eukaryotes like cannabis and most plants and animals are called diploid, which means they have two sets of chromosomes. One set of chromosomes that you got from your mother, one set of chromosomes you got from your dad. And remember, your dad's mom and dad's dad, and mom's mom and mom's dad, they also contributed one set, right? So like sperm, pollen, human eggs, and the ovum in the cannabis plant are all in a genetic state that we called haploid, which just means those cells only have one set of chromosomes. And so,
All two sets of chromosomes in nature, especially with cannabis, is heterozygote. The genes it got from the mother are different from the genes it got from the father.
exactly, yeah. And yeah. What happens in well, there's two concepts. There's in plants, there's the concept of inbreeding plants, and then there's the concept of outcrossing plants. Cannabis is an outcrosser. Like humans are outcrossers, right? Like you can't have children with yourself, right? So you have to
You can
have
do it with your sister.
Yeah, and that's when we all know the taboo about doing that, right? That's like I said last week, is if I'm talking about incest again 2 weeks in a row.
Oh,
If you do that, you have these genetic problems, right? Because e- e- every family or every individual has like these really bad genetic conditions that are usually masked by the corresponding chromosome on the other pair, right? So that's one of those examples where being a diploid like helps cover for these genetic weaknesses, right? Um, anyway, I don't know where I was going with that from haploids
Yeah,
to dip.
well, the end effect of it is if you're haploid and all you've got is the defective gene of that particular uh, trait or whatever it is, then uh, you're up shit creek. Whereas if you're a diploid, then you've got a gene from the other parent, which masks it. You still got the defective gene or
Yeah,
inferior gene,
they call
but
it a carrier,
but
right? Like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, um, but yeah, when you go down to haploids, the idea is that if you can grow haploids, you can put massive selection pressure on them, but you can also do something. We spray a chemical on them, essentially on the cells as they're dividing. It's interesting because this is all kind of tied into like the triploidy discussion in the last couple of years. There's a few groups like Humboldt Seed Company and Seth's group and Oregon CBD. I don't know. You should have him on to talk about his triploids, but they essentially created triploid plants, which have three sets of chromosomes, and the idea is that those plants can't get pollinated, or they can't make seed because in other species like banana, for example, the bananas that you eat are triploid. If you crack a banana open sideways, you can see those little dots. Those are like the seed, kind of call it seed abortions. Like the seeds don't really form properly, and so they just kind of like you know
The one
self-destruct.
everybody knows, of course, is seedless watermelon.
And
Yeah.
seed, yeah, and there are still a few seeds in those too, but they're kind of like the whiteys. And in cannabis, when Sam made these triploids the first time anybody did it, they realized that they weren't sterile like they are in bananas um or watermelon.
Yeah.
Oh, these triploids?
Some
These
of
are
the
diploids that were that and him with his diploids.
Okay.
So
we grew some
Yeah,
of
so,
those. Chimera.
so
We had
diploids are normal plants, but the triploids,
yeah, the
the idea
triploids
is
he
that they
had in
won't
there
set
as well.
seeds.
They were
yeah, but
kind
some
of
of them
spread in
did.
throughout.
Some of them still did. And so, I mean, it happens. It's part of our earlier conversation. Probably.
What you first do is you double a diploid, you make it a tetraploid, then you breed a tetraploid to a diploid, and you come up with a triploid.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is kind of like it's kind of operating on the same level as you're messing around with the number of chromosomes and the way that they divide. So anyway, if you have a haploid and you spray a special chemical on it, you can stop the cells. When the cells are doubling, there's these little lines that appear along which the chromosomes move. They're called centromeres, or no, spindle fibers, sorry. And you can disrupt the formation of those spindle fibers, and you end up with lines that come off of that, like they're mutants of the haploids, but we call them dihaps, and it just means that they have two sets of chromosomes that are absolutely identical, right? And if you that's the definition of a true breeding plant, right? So because no matter what chromosome ends up packaged in the pollen or the ovum, it's contributing the same thing. There is only one chromosome type to pass on to the offspring. So if you get two plants like that and you cross them together, you've created a seed lot that is essentially like a clone, right? Like every single plant is genetically identical,
Mhm.
like 100% genetically identical.
So that's what
And
we do with all of the varietals that we spoke about earlier, like the chems, the sours, but someone, to your point, it's got to do the work. And, Oregon CBD, from what I understand, had to shut their program down because it just, again, back to our early conversation, it's just expensive.
cost, yeah, I don't know where yeah, he's still selling seeds. Hopefully they can raise money and get it back together. They showed some interesting things, right? Like they actually
Sure.
you know, and yeah, hell, it was probably hell expensive to run.
It's nuts.
Someone should buy that up, those guys up. Maybe they don't want to sell it into a big pubco or something like that. But that type of facility,
They have some other things they need to do also besides financial problems. So it's yeah, with any luck at all, they'll survive the nucleus and carry on in a few years. But yeah, nobody knows.
I mean,
Yeah.
look, he took your playbook and ran it, right? Like they got a whole bunch of interesting cannabinoid lines. They got THCV and CBDV and CBD, or
Yeah,
sorry,
they
CBD.
accomplished it the same way we did. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Um,
and Chimera, I guess for both of you, like, where do you think it goes from here in terms of like, in terms of, you know, because we touched on so many things, we were triangulating all over the place. One is like, you know, cataloging and prior art, knowing what we have to be able to move forward with it as the artwork. Let's just call it that. Like, we know it's sour, we know it's Cam, we know it's Skunk One. And then we have the data, right? And then we have the actual items, which is like breeding with it and doing that selection process, and then taking that data and then identifying markers, et cetera, you know, synthase paths, et cetera, and then doing it again, right? And getting through to that, and then possibly selecting from there, right? So all of that, with all that said, you know, for everyone viewing, because we touched on such a huge, awesome conversation. What are your thoughts on like what the true path forward is for this? And Sam, you've lived this, dude. Like you blew everyone's entire world. You went and got a license to really study the plant in ways that is is majestic. Let's just call it that, right? Everyone, no one could believe it. Let's just call it that.
well,
But
everybody called him a cheat and a DEA agent and a
right, but
CIA.
I'm gonna call that
Does it?
majestic because that's their inability to understand the power and what he did, right? Let's just be
Yeah.
real. That's
Yep.
their inability to level up. So,
Yep. That's right.
you know, they can talk all the smack, but they didn't level up. So whatever. That's noise. It's
They
kind of
hadn't met Ray Cargo yet.
so tell us, man, what do you think it is? What's the path? Is it
There is no single path. Cannabis is much too big and complex for there to be a single path. There's, you know, a million paths, and if we all take one of those paths and accomplish it, then we'll have a whole new set of questions when we've answered all the questions we already have.
Right. But I think there is, you know, we're talking about process. It is the path. There is a path. Get licensed, raise the money, grow the plants, do the work. Right? Like there is no other way to do it.
Yeah, to
And
be
Sam
honest,
first,
what
right?
what
Sam
we
figured out that
really
path.
focused on was low-hanging fruit questions. You know, that's really what we focused on. And we just grabbed all the easy ones and tried to answer those to start with.
And that was decades of work.
yeah.
It,
Yeah,
it,
here we are.
yeah, I ended up with more questions than I started with.
Someone's
Yeah.
asking in the chat if we know the bad genes. We're in the process of starting to figure those things out now. So we're kind of like
Do we
not
know
a lot.
bad genes?
He's asking. I don't know. I can't read it because I don't have my glasses on. Marcus, maybe could you read that?
I'll try to find it in the chat. Let's see what.
Well, if it's bad genes, I would say
I think
genes
it's
like
Sharma or something organic.
susceptibility.
Oh yeah.
Susceptibility to mildew's a bad gene.
He said, from the cannabis plant's perspective, do we know if some of the bad genes play a part in the various chemical production? I don't understand that question.
No, I don't
Yeah, so
understand the question either.
there is no bad gene. There's what we call mutants, but a mutation in some cases is good, like Sam was talking about. There's in terms of powdery mildew, there's genes that are responsible for susceptibility, and there's genes that are responsible for resistance. And so you want your resistance genes to work, but you might want mutant versions of the susceptibility genes that don't work, right? Because if you take something that causes a susceptibility and you can destroy it, you remove that susceptibility.
I would say a lot of the wide leaf varieties from the Afghanistan and Hindu Kush type areas, they have susceptibility genes for powdery mildew.
Yeah, and structural things that also lead to
Yeah, that doesn't help.
yeah. Um, but in terms of chemical production, we know we're starting to. I mean, like, look, we talk about thiols and esters and aldehydes and these new things, molecules that are discovered kind of on the monthly, or at least identified. The last couple of years we've figured out thiols, and not we personally, but I mean as a community, we've understood that there's these thiols, and we've understood some of the new esters that we've been able to isolate using different methods.
Also, some of the
That's
alcohol,
Yeah,
alkaline.
and alcohols and terpene alcohols and all this stuff. And every time we find those molecules, the next question becomes, why is the plant producing that? Is it something to do with the environment, or is it actually a genetic mechanism in the plant?
And
Because
with me, the question is for those compounds is, do they modulate and do they potentiate THC?
well, that's your
My question.
question. That's your question. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's just scent is enough, right? It still impacts the consumer experience. So anyway, and it's just something odd, right? It's something new and different. And so the next step is understanding the genetic mechanism behind that chemical, right? Because if there is a genetic mechanism, that means that we can breed for it, um, and stabilize it. And then, it's all about any seed line is just like it's just a building block for a bigger project, right? Um, and once you have a true breeding seed line that trait is fixed in, then now you can move that trait into different lines. And Collin was asking about like where we are in the process. That's kind of where we are. That kind of is the process, right? Like figure out the chemical, figure out the genetic mechanism, and then we can use that technology to move our breeding in our system, right? So
Then
all
we'll
all
be
this stuff
coming up
is
with a lot of the other fruits and veggies of the world.
yeah. Well, and look, I came into the possession of a genetically modified tomato recently. Um, and it has genes from Snapdragon in it, and they overexpress anthocyanin, right? So these tomatoes are purple, like they're really dark purple, like the entire flesh is like completely purple. And anthocyanins have, or they potentially have health benefits, right, as antioxidants.
Mm.
So by eating more and more of these compounds, like, I don't know if the science shows this yet, but the idea is that,
I've seen these tomatoes, and they are really, really, really. The juice is black.
oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I had some open on a towel I was taking pictures of, and the towel was all stained a really nice magenta color. Um, and the tomatoes they're delicious. Like they're really a nice little tomato. So, we're starting to, it's funny that like, these things that we've learned in cannabis are moving over to the other world. I mentioned last week, like the gummies. It kind of blows me away that you can go into the pharmacy now and they have vitamin gummies in the vitamin aisle, right? Like there's gummies has become a legitimate delivery system. That's thanks to the cannabis community, which is kind of funny.
Dude,
I know.
it's been like the number one cannabis searched thing for like multiple years on the internet.
Gummies, yeah. I just
Well, they
posted it.
got
I came across a tweet today and I reposted it. And it's an older gent, older than me, let's say, probably in his 60s. And he's having a gummy for it. What looks like his first time. And they've got video of this guy, like, just thoroughly enjoying himself, having his first big budgie fest, right? Um, it's a good thing if you could give someone the right dose of cannabis. My mom was not really a consumer when she was alive, but I'd come home at Thanksgiving, and if she was in the right mood, I could get her to have a little puff, and it was just a small puff. I'd really regulate how much she took, but it made her happier. Like just kind of kinder person at times, right? And there's a lot of people, not that she wasn't unkind, but it just she used to kind of have this underlying level of stress and making sure to take care of everybody, and it was just nice to give her a puff and have that all go away, have
Awesome.
her just enjoy herself. And I just think there's a lot of people in the world that could benefit from cannabis if they're given the right amount, right?
Yeah, it's a super important part of the conversation that you could go as deep into in regards to how you turn someone on to these cannabis products, because you can't just take someone that's never had cannabis before and give them like some rippling hot dab off of some, fucking torch heated quartz banger or something. It's like
No
Well,
slow,
glowing.
slow.
even when you were hitting people with bubble the right way, right? And it was a small hit. Like remember at the cannabis cup, you were having to put pillows on the floor in the corner,
Dude, I
right?
know it was
Just people would hit the
ridiculous.
floor.
So many people.
Right?
I told the story the other day of when I knocked old Ed out at the Cannabis Cup. Dude, which I felt so bad. He was old, bro, like really old.
90s old.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, it was like at the end of his life. Like he didn't, I mean, he lived for
You,
some more
you,
years
you
after
should have
that.
been kinder, Marcus, and given him a suppository.
I will say I've never seen someone come out from being unconscious with a bigger smile than old Ed had on his face. And that was on the top floor of the PAX Party House. You can't make that shit up, man. When he came out, because I felt terrible. It was not a good feeling. And I always felt terrible when people passed out from bubble. I don't see it these days. I'm sure it's still happening out there, but I don't see it. I haven't seen it in years, but in the first 5 years, a lot of people would smoke full melt bubble for the first time and they would just like pass out.
They'd pull a whitey and then fall down.
They'd pull a whitey. It's true.
I
Hey,
will
hey,
tell you.
Sam, I have a question from a Dylan Wood. He is asking if your nickname Jingles was based on you wearing bells or that you constantly wrote rhymes or melodic jingles.
Uh, I had a jester's cap that somebody gave me, and I wore it for years.
It's awesome.
Did it have bells or was it just a just
Absolutely, it had bells.
fucking rights, dude? That's a pretty good
And
question.
also, one time I was at Wallach's Music City, and I ran into Donovan, and he gave me a little necklace with a bell on it. So I had my three bells on my hat, and I had my bell around my neck, and yeah.
Dude.
You have to understand. I've seen some pictures of Sam and his wife during those years, and man, you dudes were some pretty far out, like not only hippied out, but like some really avant-garde style that you guys had. It was the
Uh,
60s and 70s, but man, you guys were going for it.
yeah, they really were.
You
It's
need to put a
awesome.
little bell on the top of your Sam I am the cap now then.
There you go.
I'll put three up there, and I'll dig out the Donovan necklace. I still got it somewhere.
Nice.
Outstanding. We look forward to it.
Yeah.
Hey, what is that? What you dabbing on there, best friend? And
Good
what
good
is everybody
question.
else?
Good question from the chat. Sorry to cut you off, Jen.
That
This
was
is
a good question.
Much
this is
respect for the question.
207 headband. This is a little headband out cross and then back in that I made. That's really, really good. So that, and it's some 90
Do you
micron.
know why Kevin McKernan uh got connected with the seed company in Amsterdam, which was called DNA Seeds?
Oh, I was just about to tell a story about those guys. Go for it. No.
Well, the reason was because he thought it was DNA Seeds. He didn't understand it was Don and Aaron seeds.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
he thought,
Awesome.
yeah.
Marcus, when you were mentioning, someone passing out, we were at Legends and someone definitely passed out. Like me, Don, Aaron, a couple other people, my cousin Zach. we're just like sitting there, and all of a sudden this dude just like timbers, like boom, like it falls into the couch, thankfully. And I'm like, is that guy all right? And his friend looks at me, he's like, not really, but like, and we helped him up and stuff. But he was, it's one of those things where you don't consume as much.
Listen, all bets are off at Legends. If you show up at a Legends, you just have to understand that you are under no obligation to try and keep up, because that can be dangerous. There will be people there that you can't keep up with.
No,
You
wait a
know,
minute. But my motto at those nights is always too much.
Exactly. But you're
Need a
also
waiver.
motto.
He embodied
We
that.
haven't been able to create that at a Legends for some time. I've tried, Sam. It's not an easy thing, but I've tried to get a hubbly bubbly and have it present and have like 10 or 15 grams of 99% heads of some beautifully expressed flower that we could just pour into the chillum of the hubbly bubbly, while, maybe there was like a 5-gram base of Afghan hash that we used as a screen to pour the hash onto.
Yeah, well, what I was
Those were
doing
frightening
was
days.
every time somebody would take a hit,
Oh, I know.
I would pour another couple grams in.
Dude, I can see it right now as clear as a day. You
Yeah.
with your fucking film container full of heads, pouring it into the chillum. Oh my God, dude. Hash bean lighting it and it's shooting off like 2.5 feet off the chillum. It's like, those are. I actually didn't even pass out, but I was looking to try and pass out each time that I went up to that pipe. I was giving it my best shot.
I got really close to my knees buckling a couple times, but I made it.
Yeah, but I
It sounds
made
like
it.
people will be having to ramp up like we used to ramp up for the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam. You have to practice your smoking because you knew you were going to have so much smoking going on that you better be prepared. You better have your lungs and everything prepared so you don't pass out, right? So,
and for all the
never
viruses
smoked
you'd be
cannabis
getting.
at the High Times Cannabis Cup. I
all the
smoked
wood
dry
coffee
set.
that you're going to catch.
Ooh, dude. Yeah, I can't say that, Sam. I smoked flower the first 4 or 5 years that I started going to Amsterdam, and then around 2000, I wasn't smoking it anymore. So then after that, it was just hash only.
No, my first year I did it, and then I got married there at the Cannabis Cup there to my ex-wife there on stage, and the next day after smoking and then eating that my cake had 1.5 pounds of trichomes in it alone.
A pound?
Yeah, from
Jesus.
a gray area. His mom made the cake, and when I asked him, he's like, "Don't have a slice more than that," and I already had twice that much. And yeah, Jack Herrera, everybody, we were all just destroyed the next day. And then we went to Barney's breakfast bar to try to, it was like a 3-hour waiting for your breakfast to arrive. And my throat was just closing the entire time as I was sitting there. It was, I could just feel the sickness just overwhelming my body. And and everybody just kept passing joints. It was just like, I can't smoke. I think
The best is when you'd ask them for a large orange juice at Barney's and they'd bring you this. You'd be like, "Oh,
an hour later,
bring me 10 of those. Bring me 10 of those. I'm gonna need 10 of those. I just wanted a large orange
During
juice."
the High Times Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, Rob and I used to make no bake cookies, which was really just chocolate powder, ghee, and trichome heads. And the trichome heads were squeezed through a nylon bag, so all we were getting was the active ingredients. And we made them at varying potencies, usually about 500 milligrams to a little chocolate ball. And but one time, just for the hell of it, we made 2,000 milligrams.
On lot that we used to, at least
That's insane.
when I was younger, that was called a goo ball on lot.
Yeah, it was. They were called goo balls. I even called Sam's goo balls.
Yeah, but those came with armpit hairs, right?
Yeah,
Right,
and like some.
I'll tell you one thing: no one on lot ever made them with like Pure, dry sifted, 99.9% heads.
Yeah.
Couple of wook hairs in there. Yum.
Do you remember those?
Oh,
Do you
if that would have been legendary. I mean, if somebody had done something, they would have disappeared so fast, or that we would still be hearing the legend
Well,
of
a
them.
few times I took some of these to Adam's birthday party that he would have over in the park over by his THC facility, and I warned everybody over and over and over that these are completely very strong. If you have any doubts, don't eat half of one first and wait a couple. Well, I saw one guy eat about 5 or 10 of them, and he passed out and was laying there when I left that night.
5 or 10 of them.
Do you remember those little early 2000s in Amsterdam? They were Keef cats and like Reefers peanut butter cups.
Yeah, that was Chris's company.
Okay, they went branded, so they all look professional. All
Yeah.
look
What
the
was
exact
that company? He was a cool dude, man. I think he was from Cali.
Well,
I want
Tainted did those originally out of California, and then Tainted got busted by the feds, and yeah, that I think then they kind of made their way overseas.
Those were
But
really
Tainted
good.
was the one who originally did those, that with all the knockoffs.
Then
of
there was another
Snickers.
company in the Bay Area called Sticky Fingers.
I'm always trying to decipher whether Sam just said something super profound and accurate, or if he's
No,
like,
it's not a joke. It was this time it was truthful. I couldn't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
of
it's true.
anything
like this.
amusing.
Yeah, yeah. Bliss Confection, somebody was saying as well.
Bliss. Yeah, that
I
was,
remember Bliss.
I
I've got some of
I
their
think
labels.
Chris. It was Chris Bliss for sure. It was Chris Bliss. Yeah, they had cool things too.
Etienne,
So.
do you remember Butter Bros? They had good
Oh yeah, but that was
products.
he was the gentleman. He worked in my my weigh room. Yeah, again,
Awesome.
it goes back to so many different, doctors and lawyers, others. I mean, we've had over 25 years. We've had many people who were diehards, and they tried to find their first foot in the door, and they usually did it via the dispensaries. And yeah, we were
Brownie
talking
Mary
about.
was around in those days too.
Yeah,
Brownie
Brownie
Mary. There's no such
Oh,
thing as recreational cannabis.
I love her. She was absolutely. She could make a Navy guy blush. She could curse like nobody's business. But her brownies save lives, and her and Dennis together were an absolute fucking hoot. And she is so missed because her energy is just. She was raw, and we need that. I mean, the same thing with Dennis and them. They were legends because she took it on the chin, fought it through the courts, and what had to be done to bring the realities that we have. We owe to her and him and all the others.
San
They laid the
Francisco has a
groundwork.
long history of activists. Even, do you remember what was his name? Sergeant Sunshine from the Haight Ashbury.
I
Sunshine.
don't remember Sergeant Sunshine, but it wouldn't
I want to
surprise
know
me.
Sergeant
He took
Sunshine.
acid and would wear flowers around his badge.
Oh no, I had one of the few it was only of 4 permits in San Francisco back in the day, and I oddly enough used my old basic training photo for the picture, because you had to provide your own photo for the city of San Francisco, and allowed me to set up anywhere. So if a policeman showed up, I would just show this permit, and so we would set up on Haight and Ashbury. And there were various people coming by wearing flowers, but I've never seen a police officer walking by with that kind of flowers on his badge. That would be very interesting and unique. But no,
he was kicked off the police force once they found out what was going on.
What a surprise. Okay, yeah,
of course he was.
It's a very colorful neighborhood still to this day. It's always been a mecca for the deadheads to go to Haight Ashbury. But way back in the day, I used to score my weed outside the Ben and Jerry's right So it's just where all the Deadheads used to hang out when the Grateful Dead was in town or coming to town. There was always about 10 to 20 crusty, highly patchouli scented individuals, that would give you, it was this was an eighth, that was a quarter, that was 3/4, and that was an ounce. I'm not kidding you, people. That's how it was done, and they would
It
lay
was
across
called the four-finger lid.
There you go. And why is it called a lid? Because you could usually fit on a lid of an old tobacco top, right,
The
Sam?
other thing is, you know who I used to cop my weed from back in those days in the late 60s? Quicksilver Messenger Service.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
They were a pot delivery service.
And a band.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they played music. Yes.
Yeah, they did music because a friend of mine.
No, I'm joking.
A friend of mine actually, when I originally started in Cannes back in '93, he moved into a house that was the old Last Gasp house. And basically all their old printing stuff was left, all the old plates, everything. And so he just started trading that for original, like Rick Griffin's art and stuff like that. And he was originally, then he traded for original Orange Sunshine time capsule and a Purple Haze time capsule. And that's how I was able to sample those LSDs, was just because of the art that he was able to trade of the original printing plates. It's quite an amazing find to move into a place and find literally.
Did you ever try the original Sweet Purple Osley?
No. How was that?
It worked. It's the first acid I ever took.
I mean, if Owsley's name's on it, I suspected. Oh, I don't think he ever made a batch that didn't work.
The truth of it is, a few of his first batches had methamphetamine in with them.
Ooh. That's an interesting way to create the molecule.
Well, he was making the acid and making the methamphetamine probably, and then he was mixing because he thought it helped you enter the bardo. I forget his exact reason, but it was some sort of hoopity boopity bullshit.
Yeah, last I talked to
Owsley,
it was at a Dead show, and he was telling me about his 3 pharmaceutical companies in Australia still making acid. I was like, oh, you go, Bear. And that's when he offered me that belt buckle, which I didn't have the money for. That, god damn it, I wish I had bought that belt buckle, but
classic. The moon or the steal your face?
Steal your face.
Oh yeah, that'd
Great,
be
steal
nice.
your face.
Those are
Right,
amazing.
an original steal your face from Owsley. Fuck.
My buddy had one. He passed away, but he had an OG one from back in the day. They weren't cheap either, like thousands of dollars.
No, he wanted big money on the spot for it, which is why I couldn't afford it. I was an activist too, but if I had money at the time, I cannot imagine what that would be worth right now, because Bear shit was
how much would a hit of Purple Osley be worth?
Oh yeah, right. That was priceless because it was a micro barrel, and we actually took them and crushed them in between quarters, and you can snort them, and then the LSD would come on in about 15 minutes. It's beautiful.
Dude. Oh fuck. The old acid days. People fucking putting paper hits in their eye. I'll never forget that.
Before there was Orange Sunshine, there was another color too. I forget what it was, blue or something. But they also, before that, they were using I think it was Benzedrine. They had a pill called Crisscross. It was some sort of amphetamine drug or similar to it. And the first press they had was that, because those were around because everybody was taking they called them cartwheels back in the 60s. And yeah, so some of the first acid I saw was actually these white, what they looked like was a stimulant, but they weren't. They had been used for an LSD press.
Crazy. Jingles doing cartwheels.
No, you couldn't do cartwheels of that acid. You could do one or two maybe.
Right.
Well, we became acid church for a minute there. Shall we get back to some dabs? What are you dabbing on, Marcus?
Well, I was dabbing on that cereal milk, but I think I might go back to this guava. This just rotten fruit profile that just smells really nice. It's got something else going on it that I can't really explain though. It's in the back end of the smell. It's got a sharp sort of almost like sharp cheddar.
GMO in there type thing. Savory.
A little cheese funk to it.
Charcuterie with your fruitery.
It's my fall hash. Happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian brethrens out there and sisterin.
Don't you mean autumn?
Etienne, do you guys still have those bang bars in California, in the Bay Area?
I have not seen Bang in a bit.
It used to be like they were a high-end chocolate company, right?
Yep.
Those were my favorite back in the day.
He got busted and he was fighting. And I think he ended up winning, but it cost him the company. You know what I'm saying? It's part of those things when we were all real recognizing real. And I remember him fighting. And last time I heard, I think they succumbed, unfortunately, because of it dragged on into years. And if y'all don't know, lawyers ain't cheap, and you start paying lawyers over years, it becomes very expensive. And
that brand,
my fights with the government, they allowed me to stay open. Otherwise I would have had to close. But unfortunately, I think there was one of the companies right when they were really pushing the boundaries, they got their feet cut out
I
from
thought
under
the
them.
big candy bar in California was Kiva.
Yeah, they were pretty big too, but Bang was huge. They were everywhere. Bang ended up.
was more a chocolate connoisseur's kind of bar. They were really. I'm a chocolate whore myself. I love good chocolate. I'm more toward the milk than others, but the way they tempered and did their chocolate, they really were artisans handling their chocolate. No offense to Keith or anybody else, just something about their quality standards and consistency out the gate all the way through. They were always a solid product.
That brand ended up in Canada. Somebody bought the brand up. I think it was Indiva, but one of the big public companies bought it up. So I'm sure that's why they got a big offer from that and were facing a bunch of bills and decided to sell the brand and take the money and run. Hopefully they got enough out after the lawyer's fees. That was really good chocolate. I lived down in Cali for a while, and I remember that brand. They were good.
Yeah, 80 to 90% of the product makers did not make the leap from props 215 to prop 64 in 2018. It was overregulated because we were dealing with 3 agencies. Now it's one. They've consolidated down, and then the costs and how it just dragged out so long, and we were barely able to bootstrap it as the oldest dispensary. You know what I'm saying? And others, it was just sad to watch. But others have filled those needs and niches because of the desire of the public, right?
A lot of the ones that dropped out, it's because they were doing it in their kitchen.
Yeah, well, and even the people that stayed, that it's often like they sold the brand, right? So it's like the brand that you knew is really just owned by a different entity now, and the people that were doing the work aren't really involved.
Yeah, Butter Brothers even offered me their thing, but I couldn't afford it to handle because that would require a whole other set of realities because I had done a product food line a decade prior and I did it through a contractor. And so I knew what it was going to take for me to do it myself and do it correctly was a significant investment in a short time to ramp something up that a lot of people realize. And again, because of its federal rescheduling, there's no way for us to get conventional loans, so you're reliant on vulture capitalism to overtax you. And on top of that, that's how people lose their brands, or people buy their brands out
Lot of
from under them.
people sell out at the end.
Yep.
I mean, look at Ben and Jerry's. They were a really nice ice cream, but now doesn't Unilever own them?
Yep.
I don't know, but I can tell you, Ben's doing a cannabis co in Vermont. And he's also has a hemp farm. He's doing some stuff. I mean, I think that's they built that thing into a monster. I mean, it's just so I can't imagine. You
Yeah,
know,
Unilever's
I
controlled
could
that
imagine
company since
really easy.
2000.
really?
Since,
Wow, that's a long
since
time.
yes, it's been 24 years since Unilever acquired Ben and Jerry's.
A lot of the things you love are owned by large corporations, unless you hunt for I look like Unreal as out of Oakland. They do, chocolates and stuff like that. Tony's over in Amsterdam, and things like that for my chocolate, because there's so many unethical providers that have all been just swiped up by mega corporations that you have to make ethical choices on everything that you buy, right? And you do so, right? You vote with your dollars and paper, your your dollars, right, Marcus? You don't feed your kids crap. You fed them healthy food, and that's not cheap to raise, one child on, much less. How many children have you raised now, Marcus, as well as a wife?
My wife raised me, but I helped her raise 3 children.
Right. And you know how cheap that is to feed them healthy, good food, right?
Oh, it's insane. If you wanna feed them the good food, it's outrageously expensive, especially where we live. Especially when one of them's 6'5" and weighs 240 pounds and eats like a family of 6 on his own. That's also an interesting thing to have living in your house. It's
A living vacuum.
linebacker. Yeah, just like a NFL player or something.
Oh no, I lived with a linebacker at West Virginia University, and he would get subsidized. He would fill the freezer one day, and the next day it would be empty because he would just cook and eat all the time just to maintain that muscle mass. It was insanity peppers, honestly.
It's a lot of maintenance for sure, but yeah. Yeah, even Haagen-Dazs is owned by like General Mills. Oh,
Well, I can remember before there was good ice cream, when people thought good ice cream
damn, you
was
old.
right. Well, we made it ourselves, but the real secret is when they started making not only with natural high butterfat content milk, but also too they were doing it under vacuum.
Were you making that? Oh, the vacuum is the best when it gets all those
Yeah,
bubbles
no,
out and
that
concentrates
changes
it.
the
That's a
texture of the
trick.
ice cream
Of
completely
course. Of course. No, it's an important one for sure. And so
and the density.
were you making cartwheel ice cream back then?
No, we were taking a hand cranker and doing it almost as good as like or even better in some cases, Ben and Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs. Except for we weren't doing it under vacuum, but we made flavors like mangosteen, not mango, mangosteen,
Mangosteen, yeah. That's sweet. That's sweet.
and of course cannabis flavors.
Well, of course, you gotta have the cannabis flavors in there. Just some 99.9% heads to the tune of Just a pound and a half of those into a quart of
Actually,
ice
what we
cream.
would do is we would simmer it in uh, a double boiler with really extra rich cream type ingredients, and then we would make ice cream out of it. So it didn't really have the heads in it.
I remember back in the 90s, we brought this guy from California out named Alan Brady, and he made some hemp ice cream for us in the hemp fields in Manitoba. And I don't know if you guys remember that character, but
I remember
he
him.
was,
Was he making it with ice cream? He was using the hemp seeds to make hemp milk.
yeah, he was doing like hemp milk and hemp oil and adding it to ice cream or creating ice cream with it, sorry, cooling it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
in the 90s, there was a guy in Colorado named Agua Das. He still does it, and he was making hemp seed and milk, and then making it into ice cream. And he was taking it to the cannabis rallies and giving people a chance to try hemp in a different way. And it was Agua Das is his name. I think he's still around. Old long-haired hippie guy, and yeah, he would just show up with a whole bunch of cones and a couple of tubs of his hemp ice cream, and it wasn't the most, it's hemp in its natural form. It's not the most flavorful, but just with some sugar and everything else, it was a great teaching tool to give people an opportunity to go beyond the cloth or the piece of plastic that we had in the hemp museum to show the nutrition, which, as we know, it's still one of the most nutritious seeds out there, period, end of story.
just mentioning the ice cream, Merlin just sent me this. He's watching right now. He's I don't know if that's showing the right thing. Actually, here, let me go back and show just the ice cream. So Merlin made this ice cream last night. Fennel seeds from his garden with charcoal for the black and orange peel for the orange one. Tiger ice cream, made it last night. Dude, I love having friends that are doing things like this on the regular. It's like, I got to get together with Merlin soon and film another Getting Cooked with Merlin episode. What were you going to say there, Brian?
That looks terpy. That looks really terpy, like terpy ice cream right there with those components.
Dude, I didn't even want ice cream the whole time we were talking about ice cream until he sent me that picture. I'll be honest.
Wow.
That was what got me. I get to go out soon and get myself some ice cream, maybe, but probably not some fennel seed, garden charcoal, black, orange peel, tiger ice cream. But that's okay. That's okay. I've got great resin. That's what I decided to have great. You can't have great everything. If you try to have great everything, good luck. You're not going to be able to keep up. It's too many things out there. Just find one thing that you're happy with and make sure you get the best version of it. Everything else can be mediocre. It's okay.
That is ice cream. You got that
Yeah,
ice cream right there.
exactly. I wish my camera would let me focus in on it, but it doesn't really want to today.
We can see the hue. The hue show. There it is. There it is.
There.
And a little glisten on there. That's
It
beautiful.
looks nice too.
Yeah, it's nice. Got a good texture. It's quite lovely. Oh, well, geez, I don't know. Have we talked ourselves out of any other conversation, or is there anything else you guys want to cover? I'll go for another 40 minutes, or I can kind of let you guys all go and do your own thing today, whatever you like.
I'm in another call, so I'm gonna let you guys go and say have a fantastic day. I love you guys as
Peace,
Good to
always.
see you, Johnny B.
See you
Thanks for
guys.
coming out, brother.
Johnny.
Yeah, I have a
Johnny
friend
fucking
coming
B.
over, so I'm gonna jump off here at the bottom of the hour because yeah, I haven't seen a friend of mine from Colorado. She's coming in, so my wife and I are gotta finish cleaning the house. And
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, we'll call it a day here then. I'll let you guys all go. And sorry for, like I said, I glitched and I meant to send this I meant to send all the links out a week ago. I had created simultaneously, that was one mistake. My second mistake is I chose October 7th for the date of Hash Church when I went like to create the little thumbnail on my page. So since then, it hasn't been visible on my page. You'd have to like search to find it. So nobody knew there was going to be a Hash Church today. till about 20 minutes before Hash Church. But we still had 360 people watching live for most of the day. So that's very cool. And Merlin just said he's saving me a bowl of the fennel seed, charcoal black, orange peel orange, tiger ice cream. So look at that. You know, wasn't even no expectations, but now I got a bowl of that. So I'm gonna enjoy it and thinking of all of you guys. Thanks for coming in, Chimera, and dropping some knowledge. I'd like to do more of this where every Sunday that you're available, we can go in and do a little lesson and you know, step up our lingo and step up our understanding of these things that you and Sam obviously have a deeper understanding of and that you're so passionate about. We want to share in that passion with you. So thank you, brother. And thank you, Wade, for coming in. As always, always good to see you, man. You look good. You sound good. We're always sending you positive vibes your way. And Etienne Fontain and Colin Palmer and Best Friend Farms and the Skunkman Sam, Johnny B, who's bounced, Josh and Kelly, who were, well, half of them were here earlier. Thank them for popping in. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all of you guys watching. I'm going to make the link for next week early, like Monday or Tuesday, and I'll share it and I'll make sure I don't make the same mistakes. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Peace out.